Welcome, dear friends, to a tranquil journey through the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, a universe of curses, sorcery, and hidden battles that takes place just beneath the surface of our everyday lives. In this quiet space, we will gently explore the origins, the legends, and the characters who inhabit this world, heroes, curses, and spirits alike, woven together by the thread of cursed energy. Tonight, as the moonlight bathes the earth and the stars whisper their secrets, we'll find comfort in the rich lore that guides the story of Jujutsu Kaisen, unfolding slowly like the turning of ancient pages, filled with forgotten wisdom and dark mysteries. With each part, we will drift through time, from the creation of cursed spirits to the quiet moments of the sorcerers who stand against them. These stories, rich with emotion and quiet reflection, hold a place in the hearts of many. And now they may find a place in yours as we move through this peaceful night together. Let your breath deepen, your body soften, and allow the gentle flow of this tale to settle into your mind. Feel the weight of the world fall away, leaving only the comforting rhythm of your breath and the soft embrace of the night. The world of Jujutsu Kaisen is waiting for us, a place where the line between light and shadow blurs, and where heroes are not always what they seem. And if you enjoy drifting through stories like this, you're welcome to subscribe and softly tell me where you're listening from tonight. Now let us begin this journey and gently find our way into the story of Jujutsu Kaisen. In the beginning, there was only darkness and emptiness stretching across time where nothing could be seen and nothing could be felt. It was from this stillness that the world of Jujutsu Kaisen would begin to take shape. But in a place where light had not yet dared to shine, there was a force, a quiet hum, a tremor that began to stir. It was the birth of cursed energy, an energy that thrived in the shadows of human emotion, in fear, in hatred, in despair. Cursed energy, unlike the warmth of sunlight or the softness of a gentle breeze, was born from the darkest parts of the human soul, and it would change everything. This was a world, both familiar and strange, where the line between the living and the dead was often blurred. It would take many years for humankind to understand the existence of curses, those malevolent, powerful entities that lurked in the unseen corners of reality. These curses were born from the negative emotions and energies of human beings, becoming more powerful the darker those feelings grew. A curse, a spirit of pain and torment, would not simply fade away like a fleeting thought. No, it would gather strength, clinging to the remnants of suffering and feeding off the despair of those around it. But not all hope was lost. In the vast, secretive world of Jujutsu sorcery, there were those who stood against the curses, those who learned to harness cursed energy not for destruction, but for protection. They were the Jujutsu sorcerers, the quiet warriors who walked the line between light and dark, their purpose noble yet fraught with danger. They were bound by their knowledge of cursed energy, mastering the delicate balance between using it as a weapon to fight curses and ensuring they did not become consumed by it. It was here, at the intersection of hope and shadow, that the first stirrings of Jujutsu Kaisen would unfold. A tale would begin that would not only shape the future of the world of Jujutsu sorcery, but would also carry the hearts of those who would come to learn the price of protecting the world from the curse that lurked just beyond the veil. As the story of Jujutsu Kaisen began to form, It was not simply a tale of battles and victories, but of connection, of humanity itself. The cursed energy that once seemed like a force of pure destruction became something more complex. Sorcerers began to realize that to defeat a curse, they had to understand the emotions, the pain, and the fear that gave birth to these spirits. For every curse was a reflection of the inner turmoil of the human heart. And so, in the silent corners of the Jujutsu world, a new chapter of understanding began to unfold. And yet, there was one curse, one spirit that stood above all others, whose legend would stretch far beyond the reaches of time. His name was Ryomen Sukuna. Sukuna, the king of curses, had once walked among mortals as a human sorcerer, a being whose power was unmatched. But through time, his insatiable thirst for destruction led to his transformation into a fearsome curse, a being of unimaginable strength and malice. Sukuna's very existence was a reminder of the dangers that lay in the pursuit of unchecked power, and in his wake, a trail of destruction followed. His curse would live on through the ages, and his name would strike terror into the hearts of those who dared to challenge him. But even in the shadow of Sukuna's dark power, the story of Jujutsu Kaisen was not one of hopelessness. There was always a glimmer of light, an ember of courage. The sorcerers, with their hearts both brave and uncertain, would rise to meet the darkness. The world would not remain still. A new generation of Jujutsu sorcerers would step forward, each with their own strengths, weaknesses, and the quiet burdens they carried within. It was in this world, filled with curses and sorcery, that the story of Yuji Itadori would take root. Yuji Itadori, a young man with a kind heart and a natural curiosity, would find himself thrust into the center of this mysterious and dangerous world. His story was one of fate, one where he was unknowingly tied to a curse far more powerful than he could ever imagine. In a twist of fate, Yuji would become the vessel of Sukuna himself. But Yuji's heart, pure and steadfast, would guide him through even the darkest of trials. He was not just a vessel for Sukuna's malevolent power. He was a force of his own, a force shaped by his choices, his kindness, and his unwavering sense of justice. Through his journey, he would learn that it was not only the power within that mattered, but the choices one made when faced with the most difficult of circumstances. As we drift deeper into this story, we find ourselves stepping alongside Yuji, feeling the weight of his decisions, understanding his connection to those who came before him, and witnessing how the paths of sorcerers and curses would intertwine. With every breath, we move closer to understanding the delicate balance between light and darkness. And so, in the quietest moments of the night, as you sink into the comfort of your own breathing, let the world of Jujutsu Kaisen unfurl like a dream, slow and steady. Each part of the story builds upon the last, a patchwork quilt of light and shadow, of strength and weakness, of sorcerers and curses. Let yourself drift as each new chapter unfolds gently, taking you deeper into the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, where every battle, every curse, and every hero has a story to tell. In the beginning, there was only the quiet. But beneath that silence, a force began to stir, both dark and ancient. Cursed energy, an invisible current that ran beneath the world's surface, pulsing with the energy of human emotions, their fears, their desires, their regrets. It was the very essence of human suffering, bound in a form so powerful it could create monsters, manipulate the physical world, and warp the fabric of reality itself. Yet it was no simple force. It was alive, organic, feeding off the anguish of those who could not escape their own despair. Cursed energy was not a thing that could be tamed easily. It lived in the hearts of the living, and only those who had learned to control it, to harness its power, could stand against the curses it created. In the world of Jujutsu sorcery, this energy was both a gift and a curse, an endless struggle to balance its potential for destruction with its potential for healing. Those who could wield it effectively, who could guide its flow like a river, would become sorcerers. Those who failed to control it would be consumed, lost to the darkness that cursed energy could so easily become. In the hands of skilled jujutsu sorcerers, cursed energy became more than just a tool for fighting curses. It became an extension of the self. It was an embodiment of the human spirit, its darkest corners, and its brightest possibilities. Each sorcerer, with their unique techniques and abilities, could bend cursed energy to their will, shaping it like clay. Some could use it to enhance their own strength, while others could create barriers of protection or even summon terrifying creatures from the depths of their own power. But all knew the same truth. Cursed energy was a reflection of the soul, both a light and a shadow. Gojo Satoru, the strongest of the Jujutsu sorcerers, was perhaps the greatest example of this. His mastery over cursed energy was unmatched, his ability to manipulate and control it like no other. Gojo's power was not born from brute force alone, but from a deep understanding of the very fabric of the world he inhabited. He could manipulate space itself, bending reality with his limitless technique, turning the laws of physics into mere suggestions. But with such power came an equally heavy burden. For Gojo, the greatest danger was not in his strength, but in the distance it created between him and those around him. The power to defeat curses, to protect humanity, came at the cost of being isolated, of standing alone on a pedestal that few could ever hope to reach. But even Gojo could not escape the truth that cursed energy was not just a power for the strong. It was a force that lived within all people, both good and bad. It was the suffering of the world, the grief of loss, the pain of betrayal, and the sorrow of unspoken fears. It was in the eyes of every person who had ever felt alone, and it was in the hearts of those who could not escape the weight of their own thoughts. And so, for every sorcerer who used cursed energy for good, there were those who used it for darker purposes. The curses, the malevolent spirits that arose from the negative emotions of humans, were creatures born of cursed energy itself. They were not mere monsters, they were the physical manifestation of human suffering. They fed on the darkness in the hearts of people, growing stronger as they absorbed the despair of the living. They were the result of unchecked emotions, left to fester and warp until they became something unrecognizable, something far more dangerous. The power of cursed energy had given birth to them, and it was through the same energy that they would be fought. It was not just the presence of cursed spirits that made jujutsu sorcery so essential to the world. It was the understanding of the very essence of cursed energy itself. The sorcerers did not simply fight against curses, they sought to understand the energy that birthed them. To fight a curse was to confront the darkness within the human heart. To destroy a curse was to destroy the suffering, the sorrow, the pain that had given it life. It was an eternal battle, one that could never truly be won. But it was a fight that had to be fought, for the balance of the world itself depended on it. As the world of Jujutsu Kaisen unfolded, so too did the mysteries of cursed energy. It was the source of both strength and destruction, a delicate balance between creation and annihilation. And it was in the hands of those who understood its true nature that the world would find hope, even in the face of the greatest darkness. For Yuji Itadori, the protagonist of this journey, cursed energy was not just a force of power, it was the very key to his survival. A young man with a kind heart and an innocent soul, Yuji had no idea what lay in store for him when he first encountered the world of Jujutsu sorcery. But when fate brought him face to face with a cursed object, a relic of Ryomen Sukuna, the king of curses, his life would never be the same. By swallowing the cursed object, Yuji unwittingly became the vessel for Sukuna himself, a decision that would lead him down a path of great power, but also immense danger. As the vessel of Sukuna, Yuji would be forced to confront not only the curses that lurked in the world, but the curse that lived within him. He would have to learn to control the cursed energy inside him, to harness its power without allowing it to consume him. It was a struggle that would test his very soul, a battle between light and shadow that would define the course of his journey. But even as Yuji stood at the precipice of this new world, there was one undeniable truth. Cursed energy, like the very human heart, could be both beautiful and terrifying, light and dark. It was not simply a tool nor a weapon. It was a part of the world itself, a reminder that every emotion, every thought, every feeling had a weight. Cursed energy was both a gift and a curse, and it was up to those who wielded it to determine which side of the balance they would fall upon. And so the story continued. With each new chapter, the mysteries of cursed energy would unfold, slowly revealing its depth and its power. The light and dark sides of this energy would clash in ways both expected and unexpected, and the sorcerers who stood against the curses would have to confront not only the forces of darkness, but the darkness within themselves. As you breathe deeply and relax into this night, let the story of cursed energy settle gently around you. Let the world of Jujutsu Kaisen unfurl like a soft dream, and as you drift further into the quiet, may the power of cursed energy remind you that even in the darkest of places, there is always the potential for light. In the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, there is one name that echoes through the halls of history, whispered by sorcerers with both reverence and fear, Ryomen Sukuna. His legend is as ancient as the cursed energy that flows through the very fabric of the world, a story so dark and complex that it weaves itself into the very bones of the narrative. Sukuna is not just a curse, he is the curse, the embodiment of power, destruction, and malice that lives on in the hearts of all those who tremble in the face of fear. But to understand Sukuna, one must first venture back to a time long before the world of Jujutsu sorcery was as it is now. There was once a time when Sukuna was a human, a powerful sorcerer who walked the earth with unparalleled strength and an insatiable thirst for dominance. He was no mere mortal, but a being whose power transcended that of any other. His presence was enough to turn the course of history, to shape the world into something darker, more dangerous. And yet, despite his immense power, Sukuna was not invincible. His downfall came not from a lack of strength, but from his own arrogance, from the very darkness that he sought to control. Sukuna's rise to power was not a simple tale of victory and conquest. It was a story of a man who sought to break free from the constraints of the world, to transcend the limitations of mortality itself. His ambitions were boundless and his power unmatched, but in his relentless pursuit of more power, more control, more destruction, Sukuna became a curse, a force that could not be stopped. The very energy that once fueled his strength, his drive, was twisted into something darker. What was once human became something more, something that could never be contained again. The curses, born from the emotions of human beings, are shaped by the very same negative energy that gave birth to Sukuna. He became a curse not because of some external force, but because of the darkness within himself, the unchecked rage and malice that festered inside his soul. In his final moments, Sukuna's desire to conquer the world, to control it, led him to commit unspeakable acts. His very essence was so tainted by this overwhelming desire for destruction that when his physical body was finally destroyed, his spirit could not be eradicated. Instead, it became a curse, a monstrous being that haunted the world long after his death. Sukuna's curse would remain alive, lingering in the shadows, waiting for the day when he would return to the world of the living. His power was so great that even the strongest Jujutsu sorcerers could not fully erase him. And so, for centuries, his curse lay dormant, hidden in the relics of the past, sealed away in the very objects he had left behind. It was only a matter of time before someone would unknowingly release him from his prison, awakening the King of Curses once more. That fateful moment arrived when Yuji Itadori, an ordinary boy with an extraordinary fate, encountered one of Sukuna's cursed objects, a finger long preserved and hidden away in the vaults of Jujutsu sorcery. Unaware of the danger that lay within, Yuji swallowed the finger, allowing Sukuna's curse to take root inside his body. In that instant, Yuji's life changed forever, for he had become the vessel of the King of Curses himself. But Sukuna's return was not simply a matter of reclaiming his physical form. It was about the clash of two worlds, the world of the living and the realm of the curses. Yuji's body was not his own anymore. Sukuna had taken root inside him, and with each passing moment, the battle for control began. The cursed spirit, with all his malevolent power, sought to consume Yuji from within, to break free from the confines of his vessel. But Yuji, with his pure heart and unwavering resolve, refused to let Sukuna take control so easily. He fought back, not with brute strength, but with a spirit that was stronger than any curse. The conflict between Sukuna and Yuji is not just one of physical battles, it is a struggle for the soul. Sukuna, the King of Curses, embodies the darkness that lurks in the hearts of all beings, the primal fear, the selfish desire, and the chaotic thirst for power. He represents the part of every human that seeks control through destruction, the part that would rather burn the world down than see it change. Yuji, on the other hand, represents the light that flickers even in the darkest of places, the strength of the human spirit to endure, to survive, and to fight for what is right. But the battle is not one that can be easily won. Sukuna's power is vast, his malice deep. Even as Yuji fights for control, he knows that the curse within him is not something he can easily escape. And yet, it is this very struggle, this internal war, that makes Yuji's journey so poignant, so meaningful. He is not just fighting against Sukuna, but against the darkness that exists within all of us. He is learning that true strength does not come from the ability to destroy, but from the ability to protect, to sacrifice, and to choose compassion over destruction. As the story of Jujutsu Kaisen unfolds, Sukuna remains an ever present force in the background. He is not merely a villain, he is a symbol of everything that can go wrong when power is unchecked, when the darker impulses of the human heart are allowed to flourish without restraint. His story is one of tragedy, of a man who sought to transcend his mortality only to become something far worse. And yet, in his curse, there is a strange beauty, for it is through Sukuna's existence that the true nature of Jujutsu sorcery comes to light, that the battle between light and dark, life and death, is not always one of good versus evil, but one of balance, of understanding the very forces that shape the world around us. And so, as we journey further into the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, we cannot forget the King of Curses. His shadow looms large, his influence reaching far beyond the confines of his cursed form. But even in the face of such darkness, there is hope. For it is in the struggle against curses, like Sukuna, that the true power of Jujutsu sorcery is revealed. The power of the human heart to endure, to resist, and to rise above the shadows that threaten to consume us all. In the quiet spaces between the battles, where the world holds its breath, the true strength of Jujutsu sorcery reveals itself, not in the sheer power of curses defeated or the techniques wielded, but in the hearts of the sorcerers themselves. These individuals, each carrying their own burdens and struggles, are the protectors of the fragile balance between life and death, light and shadow. Though their work is often hidden from the public eye, their efforts are the silent foundation upon which the world rests. The Jujutsu sorcerers are not merely fighters, they are warriors of spirit, masters of cursed energy, and guardians of humanity's most delicate emotions. They are trained to confront the horrors of the world, to stand in the face of the darkest forces imaginable, and to protect those who remain unaware of the danger lurking just beyond the veil. Yet despite their immense power, they are bound by the same fears, the same doubts, and the same desires that plague every human heart. It is their willingness to rise above these fears and serve a greater purpose that makes them the true heroes of the story. At the heart of the Jujutsu sorcery world lies Jujutsu High, a school where young sorcerers are trained to hone their abilities, to learn not just how to fight, but how to control the cursed energy within them. This institution stands as a beacon of hope, a place where those chosen to wield this dangerous power can be guided and protected. It is here that the paths of many sorcerers cross, where friendships are formed and futures are shaped. The students of Jujutsu High are not just learning how to fight, they are learning to become part of something greater, something that transcends the boundaries of life and death. Among the students at Jujutsu High, there are those whose strength stands out, whose resolve shines even in the darkest moments. One such student is Fushiguro Megumi, whose quiet intensity is matched only by the power he wields. Megumi carries a heavy burden, one shaped by the legacy of his family, and yet he stands as a symbol of resilience. Though he may not always fully understand his place in the world, his actions reveal the quiet strength of his heart. Megumi's journey is one of self-discovery, of learning to embrace his own potential while grappling with the complexities of his bloodline and his future as a Jujutsu sorcerer. In contrast to Megumi's calm and measured nature, there is Nobara Kugisaki, whose fiery spirit and fierce determination make her a force to be reckoned with. Nobara's journey is one of defiance, of breaking free from the expectations placed upon her and embracing her own power. Though she is often the source of laughter and lightheartedness among her peers, there is an unshakable seriousness to her when it comes to her role as a sorcerer. She understands the weight of the world she has chosen to fight for, and she carries it with a sense of pride and purpose. Nobara is not just a warrior, she is a beacon of strength, a reminder that even in the face of darkness, one can still shine. But the most enigmatic figure of all is Yuji Itadori, the young man whose fate has been irrevocably tied to the King of Curses, Sukuna. Yuji's story is one of unexpected heroism, of a boy who never sought greatness, but was thrust into the heart of it. His journey is marked by moments of doubt and despair, but it is also a story of immense growth and strength. Though he carries within him the power of Sukuna, Yuji's heart remains pure, and it is this purity that makes him such a compelling character. He stands as a reminder that even in the darkest of circumstances, the human spirit can rise above, choosing to protect rather than destroy. Yuji's bond with his fellow sorcerers is one of the core elements that shapes the narrative of Jujutsu Kaisen. Though they are each different, with their own dreams, fears, and desires, they share a common thread, a desire to protect others, to shield the world from the curses that seek to tear it apart. It is this bond, this quiet camaraderie, that fuels their resolve as they face increasingly difficult challenges. They may not always agree, and their paths may diverge, but in the end, they stand together, bound by the shared understanding that the world of Jujutsu sorcery is a dangerous place, one that requires sacrifice, courage, and unwavering dedication. The sorcerers of Jujutsu High are not just fighters, they are students of life, learning not only how to control cursed energy, but how to understand the human heart. They learn that curses are not simply monsters to be vanquished, but reflections of the pain, fear, and sorrow that dwell within the hearts of humanity. In their struggle against these curses, they are not merely battling external threats, they are confronting the darkness that lies within themselves. This understanding is what makes Jujutsu sorcery so unique. It is not a practice that seeks only to destroy, it seeks to understand. The true power of the sorcerers lies not in their ability to defeat curses, but in their ability to recognize the humanity in the very creatures they fight. They understand that to truly protect the world, they must first come to terms with the darkness within themselves, and only through this understanding can they hope to bring peace. The Jujutsu sorcerers are not invincible, and they are not without flaws. They are not heroes in the traditional sense. They are not flawless warriors or perfect beings. They are, instead, human, deeply flawed, often uncertain, but always willing to stand up and fight for what they believe in. It is their humanity that makes them powerful, that makes their struggle so poignant. In the face of overwhelming darkness, they choose to keep fighting, to keep pushing forward, even when the odds seem insurmountable. They fight not because they are the strongest, but because they know that the world needs them, that their strength lies in their willingness to protect others, even at great personal cost. And so, as we move through this world of curses and sorcerers, we find ourselves not just witnessing the battles fought on the outside, but also the internal struggles of these characters. They are not perfect, but they are brave. They are not always sure of the right path, but they choose to walk it anyway, guided by their hearts and their sense of purpose. In their fight against curses, they teach us that true strength comes not from power alone, but from the ability to understand, to empathize, and to rise above the darkness that seeks to consume us all. Among the many figures who walk the shadowed paths of Jujutsu sorcery, there is one who stands taller than the rest. He is not merely a sorcerer, he is a legend, a living myth, whose presence commands both awe and a quiet sense of unease. His name is Gojo Satoru, and though his power is unparalleled, it is not only his strength that sets him apart, but the quiet wisdom he carries with him, the understanding of the delicate balance between life and death, light and dark. Gojo is a man who seems almost untouchable, as though the very laws of nature bend to his will. To those who have witnessed his power firsthand, there is a palpable sense of something greater at work. His abilities are beyond comprehension. He controls space itself, warping reality with a flick of his hand, and his eyes, the infamous six eyes, can see the world in ways no one else can. But with this power comes an overwhelming isolation. For Gojo, the strength that makes him invincible also places him in a world apart. He is the strongest of the Jujutsu sorcerers, but in his isolation, he carries a burden that few can truly understand. Gojo's strength is not simply a matter of physical prowess or raw power. It is the product of a mind that understands the very fabric of existence itself, a mind that has transcended the boundaries of conventional thought. His technique, the limitless, allows him to manipulate space at will, creating infinite possibilities and ensuring that no opponent can ever truly touch him. The beauty of Gojo's power lies not in its destructiveness, but in its complexity. It is an art, a dance of mathematics and energy, where every movement is a careful calculation, every action a precise expression of his will. But as with all things, Gojo's immense power is not without its cost. The very thing that makes him the strongest sorcerer is also the thing that keeps him isolated from those around him. He is a man who stands alone, apart from the others, because his power is so vast that no one can truly stand beside him. To witness Gojo's power is to witness something beyond human understanding, something so beautiful in its complexity and so terrifying in its potential that it is almost impossible to grasp. And yet, despite his strength, Gojo remains at his core a man who longs for connection, who seeks a world where he is not alone, where he can share his burdens and find others who understand him. In his role as a mentor, Gojo is both an enigma and a source of comfort. He takes great care in training his students, pushing them to their limits while also offering them the freedom to explore their own potential. For Gojo, the future of Jujutsu sorcery lies not in the power of one, but in the strength of many. He understands that true strength is not just about defeating curses. It is about understanding the very essence of cursed energy and learning to wield it in harmony with the world. He is a teacher, a guide, and a protector, offering his students not just the tools to fight curses, but the wisdom to navigate the complex world they inhabit. But Gojo's role is not one without its struggles. He is a man who carries the weight of an entire world on his shoulders, a world that depends on his strength to survive. He knows that his power is not infinite, that there will come a time when even he will face challenges that no amount of strength can overcome. And it is in these moments, when he is forced to confront his own limitations, that Gojo's humanity shines through. For all his power, for all his greatness, Gojo is still a man who must confront the same fears and doubts that every human faces. His journey is one of learning to balance his immense strength with the delicate vulnerability that comes with being human. As the story of Jujutsu Kaisen unfolds, Gojo's role becomes ever more crucial. He is not just a protector of humanity, but a symbol of the complexity of power itself. He teaches his students that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to understand, to protect, and to guide. His power is a double-edged sword, both a gift and a curse, but it is through his choices, his understanding of the world, that the true nature of Jujutsu sorcery is revealed. Gojo's power is not just a force to be reckoned with. It is a reminder of the balance between light and dark, between the strength to fight and the wisdom to protect. His presence in the story is both a source of hope and a reflection of the sacrifices that must be made in the pursuit of peace. In a world filled with curses, Gojo represents the highest form of Jujutsu sorcery, an unyielding force that seeks to protect humanity, even when the cost is steep. But beneath all the grandeur of his strength, there lies a deep, unspoken longing. Gojo is a man who wants to make a difference, who wants to leave a legacy not just of power, but of understanding. He knows that his strength is not infinite, that there will come a time when he will no longer be able to protect the world alone. And so, he trains his students, offering them not just the gift of power, but the wisdom to carry that power forward. For Gojo, the true victory is not in defeating curses, but in passing on the knowledge that will allow others to rise in his place. Gojo's story is one of both light and shadow, of strength and vulnerability. He is the strongest sorcerer, but also the most human of them all. In the quiet moments of his life, when the battles have ended and the world is still, Gojo is reminded that even the strongest of hearts must sometimes face the darkness within themselves. And it is through this darkness that Gojo, like all the sorcerers before him, must learn to find the light. Yuji Itadori's story is not just one of chance or coincidence. It is a tale written in the stars, bound by a force much larger than him, a force that would shape the very course of his life, leading him down a path full of darkness and light, pain and growth. From the very beginning, Yuji's life was destined for something extraordinary, but he never sought power, nor did he long for a life filled with heroic deeds. He was simply a boy who wanted to live a quiet life, surrounded by his friends and family. But fate, as it often does, has a way of changing the most peaceful of lives. Yuji's life took its first unexpected turn when he discovered the world of Jujutsu sorcery and the terrifying existence of curses. It all began with a simple decision, one that would alter the course of his destiny forever. When Yuji encountered a cursed object, an ancient relic of immense power, he had no idea what would follow. The object, a finger of Sukuna, the king of curses, was more than just a relic. It was the key to unlocking a force far darker than Yuji could ever comprehend. In swallowing the cursed object to protect his friends, Yuji unwittingly became the vessel for Sukuna, a curse whose very presence shook the foundations of the Jujutsu world. This single act of bravery, though selfless, tied Yuji's fate to one of the most fearsome and malevolent beings to ever walk the earth. From that moment, Yuji's life was no longer his own. He was forced into a world where the lines between life and death blurred, where every step was a journey toward understanding the true nature of cursed energy and the terrifying power that lay within him. But even as Yuji's body became a prison for Sukuna's dark spirit, it was clear that he was not defined by this curse. Yuji's heart, pure and unyielding, remained a light in the darkness. His greatest strength was not the power he had gained through Sukuna's influence, but the resilience of his spirit, the choices he made when confronted with the overwhelming weight of the world around him. It is in this resilience that Yuji's true journey begins, not as the vessel of a curse, but as a young man who chooses to stand against the darkness, even when it seems impossible. Yuji's path is one of self-discovery, of learning to reconcile the burden of Sukuna's power with his own moral compass. In a world filled with curses, Yuji must navigate the complexities of his existence, finding a way to wield the power within him without losing himself to it. He is forced to confront not just the curses that threaten the world, but the very essence of what it means to be human. In a world where survival often comes at the cost of others, Yuji must come to terms with the choices he makes, understanding that the line between good and evil is not always so clear. Through every trial, every challenge, Yuji's character is tested. He must face the harsh reality that in the world of Jujutsu sorcery, there are no easy answers. He cannot simply rely on his strength or Sukuna's power to win the day. He must rely on his heart, on his ability to make difficult decisions, and on the friendships he forms along the way. In many ways, Yuji's journey is not just about defeating curses, it is about understanding the human condition, the fragile beauty of life, and the inherent darkness that exists within us all. One of the most important aspects of Yuji's growth is the relationship he builds with those around him. Despite the burdens he carries, he is never truly alone. His friends, Megumi, Nobara, and others, become his anchors, his source of strength when the weight of the world feels too heavy to bear. Their bond is one of quiet, unspoken understanding. They fight not only for themselves, but for each other, knowing that together they can overcome even the most insurmountable of odds. These connections are not just a source of strength, they are a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is light to be found in the people we choose to surround ourselves with. Yuji's mentor, Satoru Gojo, plays an equally vital role in his journey. Though Gojo's power is vast and his personality overwhelming, it is his belief in Yuji that shapes the young sorcerer's destiny. Gojo sees in Yuji not just the vessel of Sukuna, but a person of incredible potential. He sees the strength in Yuji's heart, the courage to do what is right, even when the world itself seems to crumble. It is through Gojo's mentorship that Yuji begins to understand that being a Jujutsu sorcerer is not simply about wielding power or defeating curses. It is about making choices, about standing firm in the face of uncertainty, and about embracing the responsibility that comes with power. Throughout his journey, Yuji comes to understand that to protect others, he must be willing to sacrifice. But he also learns that this sacrifice is not a simple act of giving up. It is a choice, a conscious decision to stand for something greater than oneself. Yuji's path is one of growth, one where he learns not just to survive, but to live with intention, to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, and to understand that true strength lies in the ability to make choices, even when those choices are difficult. But even as Yuji grows, the shadow of Sukuna remains ever present. The curse that lies within him is a constant reminder of the dangers he faces. Sukuna, though trapped in Yuji's body, is not a passive force. His power is a ticking time bomb, waiting for the moment when he can break free. But Yuji refuses to let Sukuna define him. He is not just the vessel for a curse. He is a person with his own dreams, his own hopes, and his own desires. And though his journey is fraught with danger, Yuji's heart remains unwavering. He fights not only for the world around him, but for the person he is becoming. As we continue to follow Yuji's path, we see the story of Jujutsu Kaisen unfold in ways both beautiful and heartbreaking. It is a tale of sacrifice, of struggle, and of the quiet strength that lies within every human heart. Yuji's journey is not one of simple victory, but of self-realization, of learning to embrace the complexities of life and death, light and dark. It is a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, the human spirit can rise above, finding hope, meaning, and strength in the most unlikely of places. In the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, curses are not mere figments of imagination, nor are they simple shadows lurking in the corners of the world. They are born from human fear, from negative emotions so deeply rooted in the hearts of mankind that they take shape and manifest as terrifying, malevolent beings. These cursed spirits, as they are called, exist in a realm apart, one that mirrors the darkness in human hearts, thriving on hatred, sorrow, and fear. Cursed spirits are not just mindless creatures driven by instinct. They are the manifestation of the deepest, most painful emotions that plague humanity. They are born from trauma, from grief, and from the collective fears of people who cannot find peace within themselves. A curse is not just a monster to be defeated, it is a reflection of the suffering that it represents. To understand cursed spirits is to understand the darker sides of human nature, the aspects of the heart that remain hidden, unspoken, and often ignored. These spirits take many forms, from the grotesque and twisted to the eerie and deceptive. Some are so powerful that they become known as special grade curses, entities whose very existence threatens the balance of the world. These cursed spirits are not easily defeated. Their power is drawn from the very negativity that shapes them, making them formidable opponents for the Jujutsu sorcerers who are tasked with exorcising them. One of the most notorious of these cursed spirits is Mahito, a being born from the collective anguish of humanity, particularly the fear of death and the suffering caused by the death of others. Mahito is a curse of human form, but unlike any human that has ever walked the earth. He represents the fear of transformation, of change, and of the loss of oneself. His ability to manipulate the soul itself makes him a terrifying adversary, as he can alter the shape and structure of human bodies, turning them into grotesque, twisted versions of themselves. Mahito's very existence embodies the existential fear that haunts all human beings, that at any moment our bodies, our minds, and our very souls could be lost to something we cannot understand, something we cannot control. Mahito is not simply a force of destruction. He is a being of profound malice, driven by a deep-seated desire to understand the nature of life and death. He seeks to break down the barriers between human beings and cursed spirits, to prove that the world of curses is superior to the world of humans. To Mahito, the suffering and destruction he causes are part of a grand experiment, a search for meaning in a world where the line between life and death is often blurred. His cruel experiments with human souls are a reminder of the darkness that lies within even the most intelligent and thoughtful beings. Mahito's existence is a tragic reflection of the human desire for control, for understanding, and for meaning in a world that often offers none. But not all cursed spirits are as driven or as philosophical as Mahito. Some are simply born from the raw, unchecked emotions that can flood the human heart. Jogo, for example, is a cursed spirit born from the fear of natural disasters, of the uncontrollable power of nature itself. His body is a grotesque mass of elemental forces, with flames and molten lava pouring from his very being. Jogo's very existence reflects humanity's helplessness in the face of nature's fury, the terror that arises when the earth shifts beneath our feet, when fire consumes all in its path, and when storms rage beyond our control. Jogo is driven not by a desire for knowledge or understanding like Mahito, but by a deep-seated anger at humanity's arrogance, at their failure to recognize the true power of nature. His goal is to prove that the curses are the true inheritors of the earth, and that humans are nothing more than fragile, insignificant beings who do not deserve to control the forces of nature. His anger and resentment toward humanity make him a formidable and dangerous foe. He believes that the world should return to a time before humans corrupted it, a time when the curses ruled the earth. Despite the terrifying power of beings like Mahito and Jogo, there is a deeper, more unsettling truth about cursed spirits. They are not simply monsters to be vanquished. They are a reflection of the world itself, of the darkness that exists in the hearts of those who cannot or will not face their fears. Every curse that exists is born from the emotional weight that people carry, the trauma and pain that they cannot release. Every time a person suffers, a curse is born, feeding off the energy of negative emotions, growing stronger with every whisper of fear, every cry of anguish. It is this truth that makes the battle between sorcerers and cursed spirits so profound. The sorcerers do not fight merely to destroy. They fight to cleanse, to release the energy of fear and hatred that has shaped these spirits. They are not just battling monsters, they are battling the darkness within human hearts. It is through their struggles against these cursed spirits that they come to understand the fragile nature of life and the deep, unspoken pain that exists within all human beings. But despite their understanding, the sorcerers cannot escape the inevitable truth. The world will always be filled with fear. The battle against cursed spirits is never ending, for as long as there is fear in the world, there will always be new curses, new spirits born from the darkness in the hearts of people. And yet, it is in this struggle that the sorcerers find meaning, that they discover the depth of their own humanity. They do not fight for glory or fame. They fight because they know that the only way to truly protect the world is to confront the fear that resides within it, to stand against the very forces that seek to tear it apart. The cursed spirits are not merely enemies to be defeated, they are the embodiment of all the emotions, fears, and regrets that humanity chooses to bury. They are the shadows that follow us, the darkness that lingers just out of sight. And as the sorcerers battle these spirits, they are not just fighting for their lives, they are fighting for the very soul of humanity, for the hope that even in the face of fear, there is the possibility of light. In the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, nothing is ever quite as it seems. Beneath the surface of everyday life lies a hidden world, a realm of shadows and secrets where curses walk among humans and sorcerers fight to protect the fragile barrier between them. The world of Jujutsu sorcery is not one that can be easily understood. It is a complex web of hidden truths, ancient powers, and dark histories, each strand connected to the other in ways that only those with knowledge of the arcane can fully comprehend. It is a world that exists just beyond the veil of the ordinary, a world that only reveals itself to those who have the ability and the burden to see it. The story of Jujutsu Kaisen is not just the story of its main characters, it is also the story of a world that has been shaped by centuries of hidden conflict, of power struggles between sorcerers, curses, and those who operate in the shadows. To fully understand the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, one must look beyond the visible battles and delve into the quiet, often hidden forces that shape this world, forces that are as old as the curses themselves. At the heart of this hidden world is the Jujutsu Society, an organization that governs the practice of Jujutsu sorcery, a society whose rules and politics shape the lives of the sorcerers who serve within it. The Jujutsu Society is not a simple, unified force. Its members are divided by differing philosophies, with some seeking power and control over the cursed energy that courses through the world, while others aim for a more harmonious balance between sorcerers and the forces they fight against. This division is most clearly seen in the contrasting approaches of the higher ups and those like Gojo Satoru, whose vision of the world is far more radical and far reaching than the establishment would like to admit. The higher ups are the powerful, secretive individuals who lead the Jujutsu Society, overseeing the training and actions of the sorcerers. These leaders are often steeped in tradition and bound by a rigid set of rules, their decisions shaped more by the preservation of the status quo than by a desire for progress or change. They see the world of Jujutsu sorcery as a delicate balance, one that must be protected at all costs, even if that means sacrificing individual freedom or ignoring the greater moral implications of their decisions. To them, the greater good is paramount, and the lives of individual sorcerers are seen as expendable if they serve the larger goal of maintaining order and control. In contrast, figures like Gojo Satoru represent a new wave of thinking, a more progressive vision that challenges the old ways of the Jujutsu Society. Gojo is not content to simply follow the rules handed down by the higher-ups. He seeks to change the system, to tear down the walls that have confined the sorcerers for so long, and create a new world where power is no longer concentrated in the hands of a select few. His beliefs often put him at odds with the establishment, leading to tension and conflict within the ranks of the Jujutsu Society. Yet Gojo's radical thinking is also what makes him one of the most dangerous and powerful figures in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. He is not content with maintaining the status quo. He seeks to redefine the very nature of Jujutsu sorcery, to reshape the world in his image. However, the struggle between tradition and progress is not limited to the higher-ups and Gojo alone. It extends to the very heart of Jujutsu Kaisen, to the students and sorcerers who make up the next generation of warriors. Figures like Fushiguro Megumi, Nobara Kugisaki, and Yuji Itadori represent the hope for the future, the possibility of change, and the chance to create a new world where the burdens of the past are not repeated. Yet their journey is not one of simple idealism. They are constantly confronted by the realities of the world they live in, the corruption, the darkness, and the consequences of the choices made by those who came before them. But perhaps the most profound element of this hidden world is the power struggle that takes place between the sorcerers and the curses themselves. The battle between Jujutsu sorcerers and cursed spirits is not merely a fight between good and evil. It is a deeper, more philosophical struggle, one that centers around the very nature of power, control, and existence. Cursed spirits are not just monsters to be vanquished. They are living, breathing entities, each with its own desires, its own understanding of the world. They are born from fear, pain, and hatred, but they are not mindless. They have their own sense of purpose, their own motivations, and their own desires. In many ways, the curses represent the darker aspects of humanity, the emotions, the pain, and the suffering that we cannot escape. They are the shadow side of the human experience, the parts of ourselves that we try to repress, the fears and insecurities that we bury deep within our hearts. The sorcerers, in their efforts to combat the curses, are not just fighting to protect humanity, they are also fighting to suppress these darker elements of the human psyche, to maintain control over the fears that would otherwise consume them. This duality, the constant push and pull between light and dark, good and evil, is at the very heart of Jujutsu Kaisen. The sorcerers are not simply trying to protect the world from the curses. They are fighting to maintain the balance between these two opposing forces. They are standing on the precipice of a world where the boundaries between light and dark are no longer clear, where the lines between good and evil blur into shades of gray. In this world, there are no easy answers, no simple victories. Each decision, each battle, each encounter with a curse is a reminder of the complexities of existence, the fragile nature of life, and the constant struggle to find meaning and purpose in a world that is, at times, incomprehensible. And as we move deeper into the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, we come to understand that this hidden world is not just a place of violence and darkness. It is also a place of immense beauty, of moments of quiet reflection, of bonds forged in the fires of battle, and of hearts touched by the very real struggle to protect and preserve what is good in the world. The Jujutsu sorcerers may face unimaginable odds, but they do so with courage and conviction, knowing that the future of the world rests in their hands. In the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, power is not always a simple thing. It is not just about physical strength or brute force. It is about understanding the deep, intricate connections between the forces that shape the world. Jujutsu sorcery is a complex, multi-layered discipline, one that requires years of study, practice, and deep introspection to truly master. At the heart of this craft are the cursed techniques, ancient, secret powers that can turn the tide of battle and shape the very course of destiny. Cursed techniques are not merely the tools used by Jujutsu sorcerers. They are expressions of the sorcerer's very soul, their connection to the world of cursed energy. Each technique is unique, shaped by the sorcerer's individual nature, desires, and understanding of the world. It is said that to truly master a cursed technique, one must first understand the core of their own being, for only then can they unlock the full potential of their cursed energy. These techniques are not just power, they are a reflection of the sorcerer themselves. One of the most fascinating and powerful of these techniques is domain expansion, a technique that allows the sorcerer to create an enclosed space that reflects their inner world. In this domain, the sorcerer has full control over the environment, bending the laws of nature to their will. Within this space, the sorcerer's power is amplified, their techniques become more effective, and the very fabric of reality is twisted to suit their needs. But domain expansions are not without their risks. To create such a space requires an immense amount of cursed energy, and maintaining it can drain the sorcerer, leaving them vulnerable if they are not careful. Moreover, the success of a domain expansion depends not just on raw power, but on the sorcerer's understanding of themselves, their thoughts, emotions, and desires. A domain expansion is a mirror of the sorcerer's inner self, and as such, it is a reflection of their strengths and weaknesses alike. One of the most well known and terrifying examples of a domain expansion is Gojo Satoru's Infinite Void. The Infinite Void is not just a technique, it is a manifestation of Gojo's vast understanding of space and reality itself. Within the Infinite Void, his opponent is overwhelmed by an infinite amount of information, so much so that their senses can no longer comprehend what they are experiencing. Time seems to stand still, and the world is reduced to a disorienting blur of endless stimuli. To be caught within Gojo's infinite void is to be trapped in a realm of limitless knowledge, a place where the mind cannot escape and the body is helpless. But Gojo's domain expansion is not the only one with devastating power. Another well known technique is Yuji Itadori's use of Sukuna's power, especially when he temporarily unleashes the curse's overwhelming strength. When Yuji draws upon Sukuna's power, his abilities are amplified beyond normal human limits. The clash of Sukuna's malevolent presence with Yuji's pure heart creates a strange balance, one that makes him a formidable force in the battle against curses. However, this power comes with a price. The more Yuji relies on Sukuna, the more he risks losing control, for the curse is always lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to consume him completely. While Gojo and Yuji may be the most well-known users of domain expansions, there are countless other sorcerers, each with their own unique abilities and techniques. For example, Megumi Fushiguro possesses the Ten Shadows technique, a powerful and versatile ability that allows him to summon and control shadow-based creatures. The Ten Shadows technique is a rare and dangerous art, one that requires great focus and understanding to wield effectively. Megumi's shadows are not just tools for combat, they are extensions of his own will, manifestations of his deepest desires and fears. As Megumi grows in strength, his understanding of the Ten Shadows deepens, allowing him to summon even more powerful creatures and control the shadows with greater precision. Similarly, Nobara Kugisaki utilizes a unique cursed technique known as resonance, which allows her to control and manipulate cursed objects. Using nails and a hammer, Nobara can create powerful, precise attacks that can travel long distances, striking her enemies with incredible force. While her technique may seem simple at first glance, it is a reflection of Nobara's personality, practical, direct, and unafraid of confrontation. Her power is not just in the complexity of her technique, but in the way she applies it, using her understanding of the world around her to turn even the simplest objects into instruments of destruction. Each of these cursed techniques reflects the individual nature of the sorcerer who wields them. They are not just powers, they are extensions of the sorcerer's identities, their emotions, and their understanding of the world. To master a cursed technique is to gain a deeper understanding of oneself and the universe, to tap into the hidden forces that shape reality itself. It is a process of self discovery, one that takes years of dedication and struggle, and it is a journey that every Jujutsu sorcerer must undertake if they wish to unlock their true potential. But cursed techniques are not just tools of war, they are also symbols of the deep, intricate bond between the sorcerer and the world of cursed energy. Each technique is a manifestation of the curse itself, a reflection of the balance between light and dark, good and evil. To use a cursed technique is not just to wield power, it is to understand and embrace the very essence of cursed energy. It is a journey that requires not just strength, but wisdom, as the sorcerer must learn to control and channel this energy without losing themselves to it. As we journey further into the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, we come to understand that cursed techniques are not just tools of battle, they are keys to understanding the world itself. They are the means by which sorcerers interact with the forces of darkness, and they are the bridges that connect the human world to the realm of the curses. In many ways, the cursed techniques are the heart of Jujutsu sorcery, the beating pulse of a world that is as beautiful as it is dangerous, as filled with light as it is with shadow. The world of Jujutsu Kaisen is a world filled with ancient powers, deep-rooted traditions, and histories long forgotten. But among the many mysteries that shape this universe, few are as enigmatic and as terrifying as the legend of Sukuna, the king of curses. Sukuna is not just a cursed spirit, he is a force of nature, a being whose power and malice transcend time itself. To understand Sukuna is to understand the very origins of curses and the dark history that has shaped the world in which the Jujutsu sorcerers fight. Sukuna's story begins long before the modern era, in a time when Jujutsu sorcery was still in its infancy. In this ancient age, curses were not the disembodied spirits of the dead. They were powerful beings in their own right, entities with vast, unimaginable power. And among these ancient curses, Sukuna was the most feared. His strength was unparalleled, his cruelty unmatched, and his ability to manipulate cursed energy was unlike anything the world had ever seen. In life, Sukuna was a human sorcerer, but he was no ordinary sorcerer. He was a being of immense strength and an individual who sought power above all else. He was known for his ruthlessness, his disregard for the lives of others, and his insatiable thirst for more power. He became a legend in his own time, a figure whose name struck fear into the hearts of even the most powerful sorcerers. But Sukuna's desire for power was not just about personal gain, it was about transcending the very boundaries of humanity itself. He sought to become more than human, to shed the limitations of his mortal body and become a being of pure, unbridled power. And so, Sukuna began to experiment with cursed energy, delving into forbidden techniques and dark sorcery. He sought out the most powerful curses, hoping to absorb their power and become the ultimate being in the world. In his quest for dominance, Sukuna grew stronger and stronger until he became a force of unimaginable destruction. His very presence was enough to bring ruin to entire cities, and his power was said to rival that of the gods themselves. But in the end, Sukuna's arrogance was his downfall. Despite his immense strength, he could not escape the inevitable. He was defeated by the collective efforts of powerful Jujutsu sorcerers who banded together to put an end to his reign of terror. They were able to bind his power and seal his curse within a series of powerful talismans, the fingers of Sukuna, objects of immense cursed energy that would keep his power contained for centuries to come. Even in death, Sukuna's curse lived on. The fingers, each imbued with a fragment of Sukuna's power, were scattered across the world, each one waiting to be found by those who would unknowingly release the King of Curses from his prison. And though Sukuna's physical form was gone, his influence remained, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the moment when he would once again awaken. It is this lingering presence, this shadow of Sukuna, that plays such a pivotal role in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. For when Yuji Itadori, in a moment of desperation, swallows one of Sukuna's fingers, he unknowingly becomes the vessel for the King of Curses himself. From that moment on, Yuji's fate is irrevocably tied to Sukuna's power. The curse that had once been sealed away is now free to wreak havoc once more, and Yuji becomes the unwilling host of a being whose strength and malice are beyond anything he could have imagined. But even as Sukuna's power grows, it is clear that he is not simply a force of destruction. He is a being with his own motivations, his own desires, and his own understanding of the world. Though he is a curse, Sukuna is not just a mindless monster. He is a sentient being, one who is fully aware of the world around him and the impact of his actions. He is cruel, yes, but he is also calculating, intelligent, and self-aware. Sukuna is not driven by simple rage or hatred. He is driven by a deep-seated belief in his own superiority, a conviction that he is the rightful ruler of the world. Sukuna's relationship with Yuji Itadori is one of tension, manipulation, and power. Though Yuji is the vessel for Sukuna, it is clear that Yuji is not easily controlled. Sukuna's influence over Yuji is not absolute, and the two are often at odds, with Yuji struggling to maintain control over his own body and mind. This internal battle between the two is a constant theme throughout the series, as Yuji seeks to protect those around him while simultaneously trying to resist the overwhelming power of Sukuna. The more Yuji is exposed to Sukuna's influence, the more he is forced to confront the darkness within himself and the true nature of the curse that now resides within him. But Sukuna's power is not just a threat to Yuji, it is a threat to the entire world. Even though he is bound within Yuji's body, Sukuna's curse is a ticking time bomb, one that could be released at any moment. His power is vast and destructive, and if he were to break free from Yuji's control, the world would be plunged into chaos. The sorcerers who fight to contain Sukuna's influence are constantly faced with the question of how to stop him, how to deal with the growing threat that he represents. They understand that the only way to defeat Sukuna is to sever the link between him and Yuji, but they also understand that this is not an easy task. The bond between them is too strong, and the consequences of breaking it could be catastrophic. Sukuna, in his own twisted way, enjoys the struggle between himself and Yuji. He sees the human boy as an interesting challenge, a worthy adversary who can entertain him in ways that no other human ever could. Despite his immense power, Sukuna is not a being of pure destruction. He is a creature of complexity, of contradictions, capable of cruelty, but also capable of subtlety, of intelligence, and of understanding. His presence in Yuji's life is a constant reminder of the darkness that lies within humanity, of the curse that resides in every heart, waiting for a moment of weakness to consume it. As we continue to follow the journey of Yuji Itadori, we come to realize that Sukuna's presence is not just a source of conflict, it is a mirror reflecting the struggle that exists within all of us. Yuji's battle is not just against the King of Curses, but against the darkness that lurks within his own soul, a darkness that he must learn to understand and control. In this way, Sukuna's curse becomes a profound symbol of the human condition, the struggle between light and dark, good and evil, and the eternal search for meaning in a world that is often filled with suffering and pain. In the quiet depths of Jujutsu sorcery's history lies an intricate tapestry woven from long forgotten secrets, ancient teachings, and mysterious rituals that have shaped the very foundation of the world we know today. The art of Jujutsu sorcery has not always been as it is now, a structured institution for training and protecting humanity from curses. Once, it was a raw, untamed practice passed down in hushed whispers within shadowed chambers of old temples and sacred places where only a few were trusted to carry the knowledge. These early sorcerers were deeply attuned to the world of spirits, living in harmony with both the seen and unseen forces around them. Their power, though less refined, was powerful because it came from an understanding of balance, balance between life and death, creation and destruction, and between human and curse. As the years slipped by, the first schools of Jujutsu sorcery began to form. Their teachings were simple at first. Focus on the energy that flows through the body, recognize the presence of curses, and act with intention and precision. But as time carried the weight of battle, of curses growing in strength, the need for greater understanding and mastery became clear. The old ways of Jujutsu sorcery, with their tranquil and grounded energy, had to evolve to meet the demands of a darkening world. The earliest sorcerers were often solitary figures, wandering from village to village, performing rituals and exorcisms, offering their strength to those who needed it. They did not belong to institutions. Their power was their own, earned through years of discipline and a deep connection to the cursed realm. They understood that Jujutsu sorcery was not merely a tool to wield, but a responsibility, a constant dialogue with the world's unseen forces, a sacred bond forged in the quiet understanding of life's impermanence. These early practitioners, though few, were legends in their own right, and their names whispered like stories carried on the wind. But there was also another side to this history, a side filled with conflict and struggle. As more curses emerged, born from the negative emotions and violent deaths of humans, the need for more organized defense grew. The ancient art of Jujutsu sorcery began to take on a more formal shape, and with it, a system of schools and teachings arose, each with their own philosophies, each striving to find balance in a world increasingly out of balance. The evolution of Jujutsu sorcery during these early times mirrored the world's changing landscape. Where once there was a peaceful understanding of the forces at play, now there was a need for battle, a need to confront the growing tide of curses that threatened to engulf the world. Those first schools of sorcery began to divide as different leaders and factions took their own interpretations of the ancient teachings, seeking to develop stronger methods of combating curses. This division, though subtle at first, would lay the foundation for many of the conflicts that would arise centuries later. Within the halls of these ancient schools, stories and legends were shared. Some spoke of the first great sorcerer, whose powers were said to be so vast that they could erase entire curses from existence with a single wave of the hand. Others told of the creation of the first cursed object, a relic imbued with dark energy, said to hold the power to bring forth unimaginable destruction. And still, there were those who spoke of the ancient pact made between sorcerers and the cursed spirits, a pact born from the understanding that one could not exist without the other. It is in these quiet moments, in the spaces between stories and rituals, that the true nature of Jujutsu sorcery was passed on, not just in words, but in actions, in the very way the sorcerers lived and breathed their craft. They were not merely practitioners of magic, but keepers of a delicate balance, an understanding that their art was both a shield and a sword. They knew that their power was not to be used lightly, that in every action, in every decision, there was a risk of losing oneself to the very forces they sought to control. But still, the world was not yet ready for such profound responsibility. As the years stretched on, the great wars between curses and sorcerers became inevitable. The boundaries between the realms of the living and the dead began to blur, and the art of jujutsu sorcery, once quiet and hidden, was thrust into the heart of battle. As more curses emerged, fueled by the negative energy of humanity's fears, regrets, and hatred, the sorcerer's role became more defined: protect, purify, and maintain the balance between worlds. Their craft, once grounded in the meditative and reflective practices of ancient rituals, was now one of strength, of fighting to preserve life, and of sacrificing everything for the peace of others. Yet within this shift, the deeper understanding of the origins of jujutsu sorcery was lost to time. The peaceful harmony that once defined the practice was overshadowed by the need for survival, for war. The ancient teachings, those simple, beautiful truths, were buried under layers of new knowledge, new techniques, new philosophies, all aimed at meeting the demands of an ever-changing world. It is in these quiet moments of reflection, as we remember the ancient sorcerers who first walked the path, that we understand the true weight of jujutsu sorcery, not as a weapon, but as a responsibility. And though the world has changed and the battles have grown more intense, the essence of those early teachings remains at the heart of the practice, a reminder that the balance between the seen and unseen, the living and the dead, is fragile and must be nurtured with care and respect. And now, as we turn the page to the next chapter of Jujutsu Sorcery's long history, we are reminded that in every moment, in every breath, there is the potential for growth, for change, and for a return to the roots that first made this craft sacred. The past of Jujutsu Sorcery is not just a story to be told, but a story to be lived, slowly, quietly, with reverence for all that has come before and all that will follow. The legacy of Jujutsu Sorcery is not only marked by its ancient roots, but also by the rich tapestry of techniques passed down through the generations. These inherited techniques, once thought to be sacred and unyielding, represent not just power, but the essence of the sorcerers who came before. They are the living remnants of ancestors who, with each breath, with each whispered incantation, sought to control the forces that flow through the world, the forces of life, death, and everything in between. At the heart of these techniques lies a deep connection to the flow of cursed energy. Each technique is unique, embodying the sorcerer who mastered it, a reflection of their soul, their emotions, and their experiences. These techniques are not simply learned, they are lived, felt, and internalized as they are passed down from teacher to student, from parent to child, from one generation to the next. They are part of an unbroken chain, stretching through time, connecting the present to the past in a seamless flow of energy and wisdom. The earliest techniques were simple, born out of necessity and practicality. They were designed to protect, to defend against curses and other threats, and to preserve the fragile balance of the world. But as Jujutsu sorcery evolved, so too did the techniques. Some grew more complex, while others became more refined, honing in on specific aspects of cursed energy and its manipulation. It is said that each technique is as much an art as it is a science, requiring not only skill, but also deep spiritual understanding. Among the most revered of these inherited techniques are the domain expansions, powerful constructs that allow a sorcerer to manifest their innate, cursed energy into a physical space. A domain expansion is a reflection of the sorcerer's mind, their personality, and their deepest desires. To witness such a technique is to peer into the very soul of its wielder, to see their vision of the world, their hopes, and their fears. Each domain is unique, and once it is unlocked, it cannot be undone. It is a part of the sorcerer's identity, a manifestation of their deepest power. The techniques also come in various forms, each suited to the sorcerer's particular strengths. Some sorcerers specialize in controlling the flow of cursed energy in others, using techniques that manipulate or even sever the bond between a curse and its host. Others master the art of healing, using their energy to mend wounds and restore life. Still others harness the destructive power of cursed energy, unleashing devastating attacks with a single movement. Each technique, no matter how simple or complex, carries with it the weight of generations of practice, sacrifice, and understanding. One of the most notable inherited techniques in Jujutsu sorcery is the technique of cursed speech. This technique allows the sorcerer to imbue their words with cursed energy, making even the simplest command a powerful force. Those who wield this technique are often feared and respected, for their words can shape the world around them. But with great power comes great responsibility. Cursed speech is not something to be used lightly. It requires not only mastery over cursed energy, but also a deep understanding of the nature of words, their power, and their consequences. To speak with cursed energy is to manipulate the very fabric of reality itself. In addition to these techniques, there are also the mysterious, more esoteric practices that have been passed down in secret. These techniques, often lost to history or hidden away in forgotten corners of the world, are said to be the most powerful, the most dangerous, and the most difficult to master. They are the techniques of the ancients, whispered about in hushed tones by those who know of them but have never seen them in practice. Some say these techniques allow the user to manipulate time, space, and even the very laws of nature. Others believe they are the key to unlocking the true potential of Jujutsu sorcery, granting the wielder unimaginable power. But even the most skilled sorcerers tread lightly when it comes to these techniques. They are not simply a tool for battle, they are a force that can alter the very fabric of existence itself. As time has passed, the inherited techniques have become a source of pride and power for many jujutsu sorcerers. But with this pride comes a heavy burden. The techniques are not simply gifts, they are tests, tests of character, of will, and of endurance. To inherit a technique is to inherit a responsibility, one that must be carried with reverence and respect. Those who wield these techniques are not merely warriors, they are keepers of ancient knowledge, protectors of the delicate balance between the realms. The passing down of these techniques is not always a smooth process. Some sorcerers are able to inherit the techniques of their ancestors with ease, their bond to their lineage strong and unbroken. Others, however, struggle. They must train tirelessly, meditate for hours, and sometimes even sacrifice parts of themselves in order to unlock their true potential. The process is not always kind, and not all are able to bear the weight of their inheritance. But those who succeed are forever changed. They become living embodiments of their ancestors, carrying the power and wisdom of generations within them. In the world of jujutsu sorcery, the inherited techniques are not simply tools to be used in battle. They are a way of life, a philosophy, and a connection to something greater than oneself. They are a reminder that the past is never truly gone, that it lives on in the present, shaping the future in ways both seen and unseen. And as the world continues to change, as new challenges arise and new sorcerers take up the mantle, the inherited techniques will continue to guide them, to remind them of the ancient wisdom that has been passed down through the ages. In the quiet corridors of Jujutsu High, a place where the next generation of sorcerers are trained, there is a rhythm to the days, a soft, steady pulse that echoes the deep commitment to preserving the balance between the worlds of the living and the cursed. Jujutsu High is not just a school, it is a sanctuary, a place where young sorcerers are shaped, their abilities honed, and their minds tempered. It is a crucible where the delicate art of jujutsu sorcery is taught, not just as a series of techniques, but as a philosophy, a way of understanding the complex, often misunderstood forces that surround them. The school itself stands as both a fortress and a beacon. Its walls are filled with the whispers of past students, the quiet hum of memories that echo through the centuries. The halls are lined with old books, ancient scrolls, and relics, artifacts of a long storied history that stretches far beyond the walls of the institution. But it is not just the relics of the past that fill the air here. It is the hope of the future, the belief that the young sorcerers who walk these halls will one day rise to face the challenges that await them in a world constantly shifting between light and shadow. Jujutsu High is a place of discipline, but it is also a place of warmth. Despite its solemn purpose, the school nurtures the relationships between its students, fostering a deep sense of camaraderie and understanding. The bonds that are formed here are often the strongest of a sorcerer's life, bonds that transcend the boundaries of time and that will echo in their hearts as they face the trials and tribulations of the world outside. It is within these walls that the future of jujutsu sorcery is carefully crafted, where students learn not just how to fight, but how to live in a world that is not always kind, how to protect others even when the path is uncertain. The role of Jujutsu High is not merely to teach students the techniques of battle, it is to prepare them for the weight of their power. Sorcerers are not just wielders of cursed energy, they are guardians, protectors of those who cannot defend themselves from the curse filled shadows that threaten to consume them. The responsibility of this role is heavy, and it is something that each student at Jujutsu High must come to understand deeply. To be a sorcerer is not to be a hero in the traditional sense, but rather a protector of balance, a keeper of the delicate equilibrium between the human world and the cursed realm. There is, of course, a rigorous curriculum at Jujutsu High, a series of lessons that include both the physical and the mental aspects of Jujutsu sorcery. Students are taught the intricate art of manipulating cursed energy, learning how to harness and control it within their bodies. They practice techniques that allow them to expel this energy outward, using it to fight curses or to defend against attacks. The students also engage in the study of cursed objects, learning about the many ways these items can be used, both for good and for ill. And then there are the more philosophical lessons, discussions on the nature of curses, on the balance between life and death, on the delicate dance of energies that swirl beneath the surface of existence. But perhaps the most important lesson of all at Jujutsu High is the lesson of self-discipline. To be a Jujutsu sorcerer is to walk a fine line between power and restraint. Sorcerers are taught that their abilities are not to be used recklessly, that every action must be weighed carefully, and that the price of power can often be higher than one might expect. To wield cursed energy is to face a constant battle between control and surrender, a dance between the desire to protect and the temptation to destroy. It is in this space of tension between control and chaos that the true heart of Jujutsu sorcery lies. For the students at Jujutsu High, every day is a journey. They enter the school as young, eager souls, filled with dreams of mastering their craft. But with each lesson, with each battle, they grow, learning not only the techniques of Jujutsu sorcery, but also the deeper truths that lie beneath them. They come to understand that their craft is not just a means of defending the world from curses, but also a way of understanding the very fabric of existence itself. It is a path of self-discovery, of growth, and of transformation. The sorcerers who pass through the gates of Jujutsu High are not just warriors, they are students of life, of the human experience, and of the unseen world. They learn that the true strength of a sorcerer is not measured by how much cursed energy they can summon or how many battles they can win. It is measured by how well they can balance the forces within themselves, how well they can understand the delicate interplay of light and darkness, of life and death, of creation and destruction. And it is here, within the walls of Jujutsu High, that the future of Jujutsu sorcery takes root. The students who graduate from this institution will go on to shape the world, to protect it from the curses that lurk in the shadows, and to ensure that the balance is maintained. They are the next generation of guardians, the keepers of an ancient and sacred craft, and it is their quiet, steadfast resolve that will carry the art of Jujutsu sorcery forward into the future. As the years pass and new students take their place within the hallowed halls of Jujutsu High, the school's role remains unchanged, to prepare those who walk its halls for the battles they will face, both within and outside themselves. It is a place of learning, of growth, and of transformation where young sorcerers are shaped by the wisdom of the past and the hope for a better future. In the stillness of Jujutsu sorcery, there exists a realm that many know only by its shadow, an unseen world that lies between the edges of perception, filled with strange relics and objects that hum with a quiet, unsettling energy. Those cursed objects, often overlooked by those who walk the path of sorcery, hold secrets far deeper than their outward appearance might suggest. To some, they are nothing more than tools, mere vessels for cursed energy. But to those who understand their true nature, they are far more than that. They are fragments of history, of the human experience, and of the unseen forces that shape the world. Each cursed object is unique, imbued with its own specific brand of energy, carrying with it the weight of the emotions, thoughts, and actions of those who once owned it. These objects are born from the residue left behind by human experiences, pain, fear, sorrow, and regret. They are the physical manifestations of these emotions, trapped within a form that cannot escape. And it is this trapped energy that gives cursed objects their power, for to touch such an object is to touch the very essence of the emotions that birthed it. But cursed objects are not all the same. Some are small and simple, like a ring or a necklace, worn by someone long dead but still carrying the echoes of their life. Others are grander, more elaborate creations, items that have been imbued with powerful, dangerous energy, often over the course of years or even centuries. Some are created intentionally as the result of dark rituals or desperate acts, while others are born by chance, the product of an intense emotional event that leaves behind a permanent trace. The cursed objects of the Jujutsu world are not only powerful in their ability to hold and channel cursed energy, they are also deeply dangerous. Their power is unpredictable, shifting with the emotions of those who encounter them. A cursed object can drive a person mad, filling their mind with whispers of the past, with desires that were never their own. It can draw out the darkest impulses, pulling them into the realm of the cursed, where reality and nightmare blur together. These objects are not to be handled carelessly. They must be understood, respected, and if necessary, sealed away before their power consumes all that comes near. The Jujutsu sorcerers know this well. They are the ones who are entrusted with the care of these objects, tasked with keeping them under control and ensuring that their destructive potential is contained. It is they who study the nature of cursed objects, learning to identify their origins, their properties, and the best ways to neutralize their effects. The process of studying cursed objects is not an easy one. It requires not only knowledge and skill, but also a deep empathy. For to understand these objects is to understand the emotions that created them. At Jujutsu High, students are taught about cursed objects as part of their education. They are trained to recognize the subtle signs of cursed energy within an object, to feel its presence in the air, like a faint vibration, a pulse of energy just beneath the surface. The study of cursed objects is as much an art as it is a science. It requires an acute sensitivity to the world around them, a constant awareness of the currents of energy that flow through the unseen world. For some students, this is an easy task, their connection to the cursed realm deep and instinctual. For others, it is a more challenging journey, requiring years of practice and dedication. Cursed objects come in many forms, and some are more dangerous than others. There are the relics of the past, items from long forgotten wars or ancient rituals, their cursed energy woven into the very fabric of the object. These relics are often the most dangerous, as their power has been allowed to fester and grow over the centuries. Then there are the more recent creations, objects that have been imbued with cursed energy in more modern times. These tend to be more volatile, their power unstable, but they are no less dangerous for it. One of the most notable categories of cursed objects are those that are said to hold the potential to give immense power to their wielder. These objects, often weapons or tools, are coveted by sorcerers and curses alike. The legends surrounding such objects are whispered in the darkest corners of the Jujutsu world, tales of ancient warriors who wielded these objects to conquer kingdoms, or of curses that sought them out in an effort to increase their own strength. It is said that to possess such an object is to possess a fragment of the very essence of power itself, and many are drawn to these objects for the promise of greatness that they offer. But the temptation is always a double-edged sword, for with great power comes great risk. A cursed object that offers strength can just as easily turn against its wielder, turning them into a vessel for the very curse they sought to control. The cursed objects of the Jujutsu world are not tools to be wielded lightly. They demand respect and caution, for their power is both seductive and deadly. Those who fail to understand the true nature of these objects are often consumed by them, their souls trapped within the object itself, their bodies mere vessels for the energy that courses through them. The role of the Jujutsu sorcerer is not just to wield cursed energy, it is to understand it, to recognize the dangers it presents, and to neutralize those dangers when they arise. And in the world of cursed objects, this role is never more important. For while these objects may seem like mere tools, they are in fact relics of the past, carrying with them the weight of forgotten histories and emotions long buried. To confront a cursed object is to confront the very essence of human experience, the dark, hidden aspects that shape the world and that lurk just beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. But not all cursed objects are inherently evil or dangerous. Some are simply vessels of energy, objects that have absorbed the emotional imprints of their surroundings. And while they may be unsettling, they do not always carry the same destructive potential as others. It is the Jujutsu sorcerer's responsibility to understand the full range of these objects, to approach them with care, and to use their knowledge to ensure that the balance between worlds is maintained. There is a legacy that hangs heavily over the Fushiguro family, a weight that stretches through the branches of their bloodline, a curse that has lingered for generations. It is a curse born not from a single act, but from the deep, inescapable connection to the world of curses, a bond that binds the Fushiguro name to something far darker than any of its members could ever escape. The curse of the Fushiguro family is not one that is easily understood, for it is tangled in layers of history, hidden secrets, and the complexities of family ties. It is a curse that speaks of tragedy, of choices made long ago that set the family on a path from which there would be no turning back. And yet, despite its darkness, the curse is also a part of the Fushiguro legacy, a reminder that the line between light and shadow, between the living and the cursed, is thinner than anyone might wish to believe. For Megumi Fushiguro, the current heir to this burdened family, the weight of the curse is something he feels with every breath. It is not a curse that he sought, nor one that he can easily escape. It is a part of him, woven into his very being, as much a part of his inheritance as the blood that flows through his veins. And yet, despite its suffocating presence, there is something else in Megumi, a quiet resolve, a determination that this curse will not define him. He is more than the legacy that has been thrust upon him. He is more than the shadow of his ancestors. The curse that haunts the Fushiguro family is tied to the very nature of their bloodline, a connection to a past filled with sorrow and pain. The Fushiguro name is said to be entwined with the spirits of the dead, bound to the cursed energy that swirls through the world like a silent, unseen storm. Those born into the family are marked by this connection, as if their very souls are tethered to the darkness that exists just beneath the surface of reality. The origins of the curse are murky, hidden deep within the history of the Jujutsu world, where secrets are buried and memories fade like whispers in the night. But it is said that long ago, the Fushiguro family was part of a great and ancient bloodline of sorcerers, one of the oldest and most respected families in the Jujutsu world. They were once powerful, their techniques revered by all who knew of them. But somewhere along the way, the family lost its way. The curse that now follows them began as a consequence of their actions, a decision made in the heat of battle, a mistake that would echo through the generations. The curse itself is a complex and shifting thing, an entity that cannot be easily defined. It is not a single spirit or a single force, but rather a collection of dark energies tied to the family's blood, waiting for an opportunity to manifest. It is a curse that speaks of loss, of failure, and of the struggle between fate and free will. It is a curse that Megumi Fushiguro must constantly confront, one that shadows his every step, yet does not define his every action. The weight of this curse is most apparent in the family's relationship with their cursed techniques. The Fushiguro bloodline is known for its unique ability to summon and control shikigami, powerful, mystical beings that serve as extensions of the sorcerer's will. These shikigami are not just tools, but living creatures, bound to the sorcerer's energy and emotions. They are a reflection of the sorcerer's own strength and weaknesses, of their fears and desires. And yet, for all their power, these shikigami carry the same curse that has haunted the Fushiguro family for generations. Megumi himself has struggled with his relationship to his shikigami. They are both his greatest strength and his greatest burden, for they are not merely extensions of his power, but mirrors of his own inner turmoil. His shikigami, like the curse that haunts his family, are bound to his very soul, and their power can be both a blessing and a curse. The more Megumi draws on their strength, the more he risks feeding the very darkness that seeks to consume him. This bond between sorcerer and shikigami is not one that can be easily severed. It is a relationship built on trust, on understanding, and on an unspoken bond that transcends the boundaries of the living and the dead. But it is also a dangerous one. The deeper the bond, the more difficult it becomes to separate oneself from the curse. And for Megumi, this bond is the source of much of his internal conflict, his desire to protect those around him, to fight for what is right, while also battling the dark force that threatens to consume him from within. The curse of the Fushiguro family is not a simple thing, and its effects are far reaching. It is not just a mark on the family's bloodline. It is a force that ripples through the lives of those who come into contact with it. It is a curse that extends beyond the family itself, touching the lives of those who care for them, those who stand by them, and those who fight alongside them. The curse is never truly gone. It lingers like a shadow, waiting for the right moment to emerge. For Megumi, the path forward is one that requires balance. He must learn to live with the curse, to accept it as part of who he is, without letting it define his every action. It is a path that is fraught with difficulty, filled with moments of doubt, fear, and struggle. But it is also a path of hope, a hope that despite the darkness that runs through his bloodline, he can create something new, something better. He is more than the curse that haunts him, more than the bloodline that ties him to the past. He is his own person, and his future is his to shape. And so, Megumi continues to walk the path of Jujutsu sorcery, carrying with him the weight of his family's curse, but also the strength to carve his own destiny. The curse may be a part of him, but it will not be the thing that defines him. And in the end, it is not the legacy of the Fushiguro family that will determine his fate. It is his own choices, his own strength, and his own heart. In the quiet, shadowed spaces of Jujutsu sorcery, there are mysteries that few dare to speak of, secrets woven into the very fabric of the world that remain hidden just beyond the reach of the ordinary eye. Among these secrets are the cursed wombs, ancient and unsettling remnants of the past that carry with them a story of creation, destruction, and the dark forces that linger beneath the surface of life. These cursed wombs, as they are known, are not mere artifacts or relics. They are living entities born from the deepest depths of negative human emotions, the most primal fears, and the unspoken traumas that stain the world. A cursed womb is a place where curses are born, where the very essence of life and death intertwine, creating something neither fully alive nor fully dead. They are not like the curses that roam the world, taking shape in the form of monsters or spirits. Instead, they are more like incubators, dark, twisted vessels that give birth to new and powerful curses. They are formed from the very energy of the world's deepest sorrows, its most intense moments of fear, and its most violent bursts of hatred. These are the forces that shape the cursed wombs, and they are not to be taken lightly. The origins of the cursed wombs are shrouded in mystery. Some say they are the remnants of ancient rituals, performed long ago by sorcerers who sought to harness the power of curses for their own purposes. Others believe that they are the result of some great cosmic imbalance, a crack in the fabric of reality where the forces of life and death collided, giving birth to something that should never have existed. But whatever their true origin, the cursed wombs are an undeniable force, and they are not to be underestimated. What makes the cursed wombs so terrifying is the way they operate. Within them, curses grow and fester, feeding on the negative energy that permeates the world. This energy is not only drawn from the emotions of the living, but from the very essence of death itself. It is a dark, powerful force that flows through the cursed wombs, nourishing them and allowing them to grow stronger. The more energy a cursed womb absorbs, the more potent the curses that emerge from it become. And once a curse is born from a cursed womb, it is often unlike any other. It is a force unto itself, an entity that cannot be easily contained or controlled. These cursed wombs are not simply places of birth, they are also places of transformation. The curses born from these wombs are not ordinary curses. They are powerful, often intelligent, and capable of manipulating the very fabric of reality. They are born with a deep understanding of cursed energy, and they learn to control it with a skill and precision that rivals even the most seasoned jujutsu sorcerers. They are a terrifying reminder of the dangers that lie just beneath the surface of the world, a reminder that even the most seemingly peaceful places can hold dark and twisted forces within. The sorcerers who study and fight curses know that the existence of cursed wombs is a reality they must face. These wombs are not easily destroyed, and they cannot simply be sealed away. They are a part of the world, an inevitable consequence of the dark forces that exist within human nature. And while sorcerers work tirelessly to keep these cursed wombs contained, they know that the threat they pose is always present. There is always the chance that a new cursed womb will appear, bringing with it a new wave of terror, a new breed of curse that is more powerful and more dangerous than anything the world has seen before. For the Jujutsu sorcerers who encounter cursed wombs, the path ahead is fraught with danger. They must navigate the delicate balance between understanding these dark entities and containing the power they hold. It is a task that requires not only skill, but also an understanding of the nature of cursed energy itself. The sorcerers must learn to see the energy within the cursed wombs, to feel its presence, and to know when it is time to intervene before it becomes too late. But the cursed wombs are not always so easily understood. In some cases, the curses born from them can take on strange, unpredictable forms, defying the expectations of those who seek to study them. These curses are not bound by the same rules that govern other curses. They are free to shape themselves as they wish, to become whatever form of terror they desire. And in some cases, they may even become something more than just curses. They may become beings with their own will, their own desires, and their own agendas. This is what makes the cursed wombs so dangerous. They are not merely vessels of dark energy. They are also places where that energy takes on a life of its own, where it transforms into something far more powerful, far more dangerous. And once that transformation occurs, there is little that can be done to stop it. The curses born from cursed wombs are often too powerful to be contained by normal means, and they may require the combined efforts of the most skilled jujutsu sorcerers to defeat. For the sorcerers who are tasked with dealing with these cursed wombs, the challenge is not just to fight the curses that emerge from them, but to understand the deeper mysteries that lie within. They must learn to tap into the very forces that give birth to these curses, to understand their origin and their purpose. And in doing so, they must also confront the darkest aspects of human nature, the fears, the regrets, and the pains that have created these twisted forces in the first place. The cursed wombs are a reminder that the world of Jujutsu sorcery is not just a battle between light and darkness. It is a reflection of the very nature of existence itself. It is a reminder that the line between life and death is thin, and that the forces that govern the universe are far more complex and mysterious than they may first appear. And while the sorcerers, who fight to protect the world from curses may never fully understand the true nature of the cursed wombs. They know one thing: they must never stop fighting. For in a world where cursed energy flows freely, and where the darkest aspects of human nature are always lurking just beneath the surface, the battle between light and shadow is never truly over. In the quiet shadows of Jujutsu sorcery, where the forces of life and death blur and intertwine, there exists a bond that is often misunderstood, a connection that stretches across boundaries between those who wield power and those who are bound by it. This bond, one that ties sorcerers to cursed spirits, is not always one of enmity, but of complexity, a relationship defined by necessity, fear, and at times even understanding. Cursed spirits are not merely the enemies of sorcerers, nor are they simply malevolent forces that exist to sow chaos. They are born from the most negative emotions, the darkest aspects of the human soul, the feelings of hatred, fear, and regret that linger long after death. These emotions, steeped in sorrow and rage, give birth to entities that are both powerful and dangerous. Yet despite their origin, cursed spirits are not without depth. They carry with them the remnants of the people from whom they were born, the lingering echoes of human lives that have been tainted by tragedy and loss. To a Jujutsu sorcerer, the encounter with a cursed spirit is not always one of violence or destruction. While it is true that most curses are dangerous and must be dealt with swiftly, there are moments when the sorcerer and the cursed spirit find themselves in a delicate balance, a dance between predator and prey, between life and death, that is as old as the world itself. These moments are rare and often fleeting, but they hold within them the potential for understanding. For sorcerers know that curses are not simply born out of malice. They are born from pain, from the unresolved anguish of those who have passed on, unable to find peace in their afterlife. The relationship between sorcerers and cursed spirits is therefore not one-sided. It is a bond built on the understanding that the cursed spirits, for all their power, are driven by the very emotions that humanity itself struggles to understand and control. They are creatures of the unseen world, born from the dark corners of the human heart, and their existence is a reflection of the world's deepest fears and regrets. The sorcerers who fight them are not only warriors, they are also witnesses to the deep, unspoken sorrows of those who have been lost to the curse of negative energy. For some sorcerers, this connection is an uncomfortable one. They are trained to destroy the curses that plague the world, to rid the world of the spirits that threaten to tip the balance between the living and the dead. And yet, even as they engage in battle, they cannot escape the truth. The curses they fight are not entirely unlike themselves. Like the sorcerers who wield cursed energy, these spirits are born from the same forces that govern the world, forces of emotion, energy, and existence. This realization can be unsettling, for it brings with it a sense of responsibility, of recognition that the line between the living and the cursed is not as clear-cut as it may seem. There are those among the sorcerers who understand this connection more deeply than others. These individuals do not simply seek to destroy cursed spirits, they seek to understand them, to uncover the reasons behind their existence. For in doing so, they come to understand the very nature of curses themselves. They know that, at the heart of every curse, there is a story, one of pain, of loss, of unfulfilled desires. These sorcerers do not approach cursed spirits with the same violence as others. Instead, they approach with empathy, seeking to uncover the truth behind the spirit's creation, and if possible, offer it peace. It is a delicate task, one that requires not only strength, but also wisdom and patience, for the curses do not always respond to kindness. Some are too far gone, too consumed by their own darkness to be reasoned with. But even when understanding is impossible, the bond between sorcerer and curse remains. The sorcerer who faces a cursed spirit must accept that in that moment they are bound to the curse in a way that is unavoidable. The spirit is a part of the world as much as they are, and its existence cannot be erased without consequence. The sorcerer may defeat the curse, but in doing so, they will always carry a piece of it with them. It is a haunting, a reminder that the forces that shape the world are not always easily understood, and that every action has its cost. There are also curses that are more insidious, ones that do not take the form of vengeful spirits or monstrous entities, but instead manifest as whispers, as quiet doubts that gnaw at the edges of the mind. These types of curses are the hardest to fight, for they cannot be seen, and yet they have the power to consume a sorcerer from within. These curses are born from the emotional turmoil of the human heart, from the unresolved feelings that linger long after the source of the pain has passed. To confront these curses requires not only strength of body, but also strength of spirit, for they are the most dangerous of all. They prey not on the body, but on the soul. The bond between sorcerer and curse, then, is a bond of mutual understanding. The sorcerer must confront the curse, whether in physical battle or in the quiet recesses of their own mind. They must fight to maintain their sense of self, their connection to the world of the living, even as the cursed energy threatens to overwhelm them. And in doing so, they learn to navigate the complex, often fraught relationship between light and dark, between the seen and the unseen. They come to understand that they are never fully separate from the curses they face, that their own emotions, their own fears, are part of the same world that gives birth to these entities. For many sorcerers, this realization is a turning point. It is a moment of clarity where they see that their fight against the curses is not a battle against something external, but a battle within themselves. They are fighting against the darkness that exists not only in the world around them, but in their own hearts. The curses are not just enemies to be destroyed, they are reflections of the fears and desires that all humans carry within them. And so, the bond between sorcerers and cursed spirits becomes one of reflection, of mutual recognition. It is a bond that reminds sorcerers of their own humanity, of the fragile line that separates them from the curses they seek to control. In this quiet understanding, the fight between light and dark becomes less about destruction and more about balance, a delicate, ongoing dance between forces that shape the world in ways both seen and unseen. In the world of Jujutsu sorcery, where the line between light and dark is drawn ever so finely, there exists a side to the craft that is often hidden from the eyes of the untrained. This darker side of Jujutsu sorcery is not one that is often spoken of aloud, for it is a space filled with moral ambiguities, where even the most well-intentioned sorcerers must confront the harsh reality that their choices are not always clear-cut. It is a world where power, control, and the balance between life and death are constantly at play, and where the shadows cast by the forces they wield often blur the line between righteousness and ruin. The dark side of Jujutsu sorcery does not reside in the curses themselves, but rather in the way they are confronted, controlled, and used. It lies in the hearts of the sorcerers, in the decisions they make, and the paths they choose to walk. For every sorcerer who uses their abilities to protect and heal, there is another who may use the very same techniques to manipulate, destroy, or control. The power that comes with Jujutsu sorcery is not inherently good or evil. It is simply a force of nature, a raw and untamed energy that bends to the will of those who command it. One of the greatest dangers of this power is that it is so easily corrupted. Cursed energy, after all, is born from the negative emotions of humanity, the fears, regrets, anger, and hatred that flow through every soul. It is a force that is tied to the darker aspects of life, to the moments of sorrow and loss that color the human experience. And while this energy can be used for good, for protection and healing, it can just as easily be twisted and turned into a weapon, used to bring suffering and destruction to those who stand in its way. In the hands of the wrong person, Jujutsu sorcery can become a tool for tyranny and manipulation. There are sorcerers who, driven by their own desires for power, control, or vengeance, will use their abilities to impose their will on others. They may choose to bind others with cursed energy, bending their minds and bodies to their whims, or even to use curses as pawns in their own schemes. In doing so, they blur the line between what is right and what is necessary, and their actions lead them down a path from which there is no easy return. The most dangerous of these sorcerers are often those who believe that their actions are justified, that the end will justify the means. They convince themselves that the power they wield is necessary to protect the world, to bring about a greater good. But in their pursuit of this greater good, they sacrifice the very values that Jujutsu sorcery was meant to uphold. They forget that the power of a sorcerer is not meant to be used for personal gain, but for the balance of the world, a balance that is as delicate as it is important. One of the most profound examples of this dark side of Jujutsu sorcery lies in the history of certain techniques, those that are considered too dangerous or too morally ambiguous to be used without careful thought and restraint. These techniques, often passed down through generations, are those that can manipulate life and death itself, bending the very laws of nature. While some sorcerers use these techniques with the utmost caution, others see them as tools to further their own goals, using them to control life and death in ways that no one should have the right to. The forbidden techniques of Jujutsu sorcery are among the most potent and dangerous, and their use is often seen as a desperate act, one born from a need to break free from the natural constraints of life and death. These techniques may offer the power to manipulate the very fabric of existence, to reverse death or create life, to control time and space, or to bind spirits to one's will. They are techniques of immense power, but also of immense risk, for they often come with a price, a cost that is paid in blood, in sacrifice, and in the loss of the very humanity that makes a sorcerer who they are. Some of these forbidden techniques are so dangerous that they are considered unworthy of being passed on to the next generation of sorcerers. They are techniques that, if used incorrectly or without the proper understanding, can lead to catastrophic consequences, destroying not only the sorcerer who wields them, but also the very world they sought to protect. In the hands of the wrong person, these techniques can bring about destruction on an unimaginable scale, leaving behind nothing but ruin and sorrow. And yet, despite the risks, there are those who are drawn to these techniques, who believe that the power they offer is worth the cost. They are the ones who believe that the world can be shaped according to their will, that the balance of life and death can be controlled, and that the laws of nature can be bent to their desires. They are the ones who cross the line, who step into the realm of forbidden knowledge, and who, in doing so, risk losing themselves to the very darkness they sought to control. It is in this space, this shadowed realm of moral uncertainty, that the true darkness of Jujutsu sorcery lies. For it is not just the power itself that is dangerous, it is the temptation to use it for personal gain, to cross the line between what is right and what is necessary. It is the belief that the end can justify the means, that the world can be shaped through force and control rather than through balance and understanding. The true danger of Jujutsu sorcery's dark side is not in the curses themselves, nor in the power that sorcerers wield, but in the choices they make, the decisions that define who they are and what they stand for. It is the constant struggle between light and shadow, between what is just and what is convenient, between the greater good and the temptation to bend the world to one's will. The true test of a sorcerer lies not in their ability to wield power, but in their ability to restrain it, to recognize that the path of righteousness is often the most difficult to follow, but it is the only path that leads to peace. For every sorcerer who walks this dark path, there is another who strives to uphold the true principles of Jujutsu sorcery, who understands that their power is not meant to be wielded lightly. It is in the choices they make, in the actions they take, that the true nature of their craft is revealed, not in the strength of their techniques, but in the strength of their hearts. In the world of Jujutsu sorcery, where the forces of light and darkness constantly war for dominance, there exists an undercurrent of ideology, a delicate web of beliefs that guides the actions of those who wield cursed energy. These ideals are not simply abstract concepts, but living principles that shape the choices of the sorcerers, the way they use their power, and the path they walk between the seen and unseen realms. Within the world of Jujutsu, there is a tension between what is just and what is necessary, between what is idealistic and what is pragmatic, and it is within this space that the true nature of Jujutsu sorcery is revealed. At the core of this world lies the ideal that Jujutsu sorcery exists, to maintain balance, a balance between life and death, between the living and the cursed. Sorcerers are not simply warriors who battle against curses, but guardians who strive to protect the fragile equilibrium of the world. They wield their cursed energy with a deep sense of responsibility, knowing that their power is both a shield and a sword, capable of defending those who cannot protect themselves, but also capable of causing immense harm if wielded carelessly. This ideal of balance is what drives many of the sorcerers, guiding them in their decisions and actions. They understand that their duty is not just to eliminate curses, but to protect the world from the forces that seek to destroy it. They must maintain the delicate balance between the realms, ensuring that the cursed energy that flows through the world does not overwhelm the human world. But this ideal is not always as clear cut as it seems. The forces of darkness that exist within the world of Jujutsu sorcery are not easily defeated, and the balance that sorcerers seek to protect is often fragile, teetering on the edge of destruction. This is where the conflict between ideals begins to take shape, as different sorcerers hold differing views on how this balance should be maintained. Some believe that the preservation of the world is the ultimate goal, even if it means sacrificing a few in the process. These sorcerers are pragmatic, willing to make hard choices for the greater good, even if it means bending or breaking their own ideals. For them, the ends justify the means, and they are willing to do whatever it takes to ensure the safety of the world, even if it comes at a personal cost. Others, however, hold a more idealistic view that the world can be saved without sacrificing the very principles that make them sorcerers. They believe that there is always a way to protect the world without compromising their values, without losing their humanity in the process. These sorcerers refuse to accept that power must be used recklessly, and they are determined to fight for a world where the balance can be maintained without sacrificing the integrity of their craft. They seek to find a path that is both just and effective, holding on to the belief that the right way is always worth fighting for, even if it is not the easiest path. The tension between these two ideologies is a constant undercurrent within the world of Jujutsu sorcery. It is a struggle between those who are willing to take drastic measures to preserve the world and those who refuse to compromise their ideals, no matter the cost. It is a struggle that is not easily resolved, for both sides hold deep convictions that are rooted in the very nature of Jujutsu sorcery itself. At the heart of this ideological divide lies the question of what it means to be a sorcerer. For those who follow the pragmatic path, being a sorcerer is about using power to protect, to eliminate the threat of curses, and to keep the balance intact, no matter the cost. For them, the ability to wield cursed energy is a responsibility, one that must be used with clarity and focus, even if it means making difficult decisions along the way. To be a sorcerer is to accept that power comes with a price, and that the greater good sometimes requires sacrifices that cannot be avoided. For those who follow the idealistic path, however, being a sorcerer is about more than just power. It is about embodying the ideals of justice, honor, and compassion. They see their craft not as a means to an end, but as a way of life, one that must be lived with integrity and respect for all beings, whether human or cursed. These sorcerers believe that the power they wield is not to be used for personal gain, but for the betterment of the world as a whole. They seek a way to protect the world without compromising the very principles that make them who they are. This ideological divide is not merely a philosophical debate. It plays out in the very actions of the sorcerers themselves. Those who walk the pragmatic path often find themselves in conflict with those who adhere to a more idealistic approach. They disagree on the methods that should be used to combat curses, on how far one should go to ensure the safety of the world. The pragmatic sorcerers see their actions as necessary sacrifices, while the idealists see them as compromises of their values. Each side believes that their way is the only way to preserve the world, and the tension between them only grows as the stakes of the battles they fight become ever higher. At times, this ideological conflict can lead to moments of deep reflection, where sorcerers must confront their own beliefs and question whether the path they have chosen is truly the right one. For some, the struggle is internal, an ongoing battle between their desire to protect the world and their unwillingness to sacrifice their own ideals. For others, the conflict is external, as they must face the consequences of their decisions, knowing that every action they take has the potential to shape the world in ways they cannot fully comprehend. Ultimately, the ideals of Jujutsu sorcery are not meant to be easy or simple. They are complex, filled with contradictions and uncertainties. The world of Jujutsu is not black and white. It is a world of shades of gray, where the balance between light and darkness is constantly shifting. The true test of a sorcerer is not in their ability to wield cursed energy, but in their ability to navigate these complexities, to make difficult decisions, and hold on to their ideals even when the world seems to demand that they let them go. In the end, the battle between ideals and jujutsu sorcery is not one that can be easily won. It is a journey, a continuous struggle to find the right balance between power and compassion, between duty and morality. And while there may never be a perfect resolution, it is the sorcerers who continue to walk this path with unwavering resolve, who strive to live in alignment with their beliefs, who ultimately define the future of jujutsu sorcery. In the world of jujutsu sorcery, where the forces of light and shadow continually clash, there exists a quiet truth, a truth that no sorcerer can ever escape. It is the realization that every act of courage, every battle fought, every curse sealed, ultimately comes at a cost. The cost may not always be apparent in the moment, but it is always present, lingering like a shadow in the wake of every victory. And in the quiet aftermath of the greatest battles, where the echoes of conflict slowly fade away, it is often the death of a hero that leaves the deepest mark, a wound that cannot be healed by power or time. The death of a hero in jujutsu sorcery is not merely the loss of a life, it is the loss of hope, of purpose, and of the very ideals that they represented. Heroes in this world are not simply those who fight against curses. They are the ones who embody the values that define jujutsu sorcery. They are the ones who stand at the front lines, facing the darkness with unwavering resolve, and who sacrifice everything for the greater good. These heroes, though mortal, carry within them the essence of what it means to be a jujutsu sorcerer: strength, compassion, and the unshakable belief that the world can be protected from the forces that threaten to tear it apart. And yet, even heroes are not immune to death. In the end, even the strongest sorcerers must face the same fate as all who walk this world. Their bodies, once vessels of immense power, must eventually succumb to the passage of time, to the wounds they have suffered, or to the curses that they have fought so tirelessly to contain. The death of a hero, then, is not just a personal loss. It is a loss for the entire world of jujutsu sorcery, a reminder of the fragility of life and the inherent impermanence of all things. When a hero falls, the world is forced to confront the reality of what it means to be human, to live in a world where the balance between life and death is so fragile, where every act of courage is tinged with the knowledge that it may cost someone everything. The death of a hero forces those who remain to question their own purpose, their own commitment to the ideals they hold dear. It brings with it a sense of uncertainty, a moment of deep reflection, where the future of Jujutsu sorcery seems unclear and the path forward uncertain. Yet, even in the face of death, the legacy of a hero endures. Heroes do not fade away entirely when they die. Their actions, their sacrifices, and the principles they fought for live on in the hearts of those they leave behind. The true power of a hero lies not in the physical strength they wield, but in the impact they have on the world. It is in the way they inspire others to rise up, to continue fighting, to carry the torch they once held. The death of a hero may bring sorrow, but it also brings renewal, as the next generation of sorcerers steps forward to honor their memory and continue their work. For the heroes of Jujutsu sorcery, the true measure of their greatness is not found in their victories or their power, but in the way they lived, in the way they chose to fight, and in the way they gave everything for the cause they believed in. They are remembered not for their strength alone, but for the ideals they upheld, for the belief that no matter how great the darkness, the light of hope can always shine through. The death of a hero also serves as a reminder of the sacrifices that Jujutsu sorcerers must make. In a world where curses are ever present, where the forces of darkness constantly threaten to overwhelm the light, there is no room for complacency. Every sorcerer knows that they may one day be called upon to make the ultimate sacrifice, to lay down their life for the greater good. And while this knowledge may weigh heavily on the hearts of those who fight, it also serves as a reminder of the duty they bear to protect the world no matter the cost. Yet even as heroes fall, the world of Jujutsu sorcery continues to turn. New sorcerers rise to take their place, carrying with them the lessons learned from those who came before. The cycle of life, death, and rebirth continues, and though the loss of a hero is felt deeply, it is not the end. It is a chapter in a larger story, a story that is always unfolding, always moving forward, even in the face of loss and grief. For those who remain, the death of a hero becomes a turning point, a moment of reckoning, where the ideals of Jujutsu sorcery are tested, where the line between light and darkness is drawn even more sharply. It is a time for reflection, for understanding, and for the quiet resolve to continue the fight, even when the world seems uncertain. The memory of a fallen hero serves as both a guide and a reminder, urging those who carry on to never forget the sacrifices that have been made and to always honor the ideals that define their craft. And so, while the death of a hero is a painful moment in the history of Jujutsu sorcery, it is also a necessary one. For in the darkness that follows their passing, there is the potential for growth, for change, and for the continuation of the fight that must always go on. The death of a hero may be the end of one story, but it is also the beginning of another, a story where new heroes will rise, and where the legacy of those who have fallen will live on, lighting the way for the generations to come. As the world of Jujutsu sorcery moves forward, carried on the breath of those who walk the path between the living and the cursed, there lies a quiet uncertainty, a sense of anticipation, of change, and of the unknown. The future of Jujutsu Kaisen, of the art of Jujutsu sorcery itself, is a tale that has yet to be fully written, and though the forces of darkness continue to shift, so too do the sorcerers who stand against them. The future is not simply an extension of the past, but a new chapter where the ideals, the struggles, and the very nature of sorcery itself will be tested in ways both seen and unseen. It is a future where the stakes have grown higher, where the balance between the realms of life and death has become even more delicate, and where the weight of past sacrifices presses heavily on those who remain. But it is also a future of hope, of growth, and of possibility. The journey of Jujutsu sorcery is never truly over. It is an endless cycle of learning, of evolving, and of adapting to the ever changing tides of the world. And the new generation of sorcerers rises to take up the mantle. They do so with the understanding that their path will not be easy, but it is a path they must walk. The future of Jujutsu sorcery will be shaped by those who are willing to face the unknown, to confront the challenges that lie ahead, and to continue the work that has been passed down through generations. But it is also a future that will be marked by the lessons learned from those who have come before, those who fought and sacrificed, those who lived and died for the ideals they held dear. The future of Jujutsu Kaisen is not just a story of conflict, but a story of growth, of learning from the past and using that knowledge to build something stronger, more resilient. For the sorcerers of the next generation, their journey will be one of both self discovery and responsibility. They will inherit the legacies of their predecessors, but they will also forge their own paths, testing the boundaries of what is possible within the art of Jujutsu sorcery. Some will struggle with the weight of their inheritance, while others will embrace it, understanding that their role in the world is not just to fight curses, but to protect the fragile balance that keeps the world intact. Their actions, their decisions, and their growth will shape the future of Jujutsu sorcery, just as the actions of those who have come before them have shaped the present. But it is not only the sorcerers who will determine the future of Jujutsu sorcery, it is the curses themselves, the forces of darkness that continue to rise and threaten the balance of the world. The curses will continue to evolve, growing stronger, more intelligent, and more unpredictable with each passing day. They are the ever present reminder of the fragility of the world, the force that pushes the sorcerers to evolve and adapt, to find new ways of fighting, of protecting, and of surviving. The struggle between curses and sorcerers will always be there, an ongoing battle that never truly ends, for in a world as complex and as unstable as this one, there can be no final victory, only moments of respite before the next wave arrives. The future of Jujutsu sorcery will also be shaped by the choices made by those who hold the power. For every sorcerer who chooses to walk the path of righteousness, there will be another who faces the temptation to use their abilities for their own gain. The battle between good and evil, between those who seek to protect and those who seek to control, will continue to be the driving force behind the events that unfold. The choices made by the characters within this world, whether out of duty, selfishness, or a desire for change, will define the future trajectory of Jujutsu sorcery. The ideals that sorcerers hold dear will continue to evolve, and the struggle between the dark and the light will always be present. And yet, in the midst of all the conflict, there will also be moments of peace. The future is not solely defined by battles and losses. It is also defined by the moments of quiet reflection, the moments of growth and understanding that come from the journey itself. For every hero who falls, there is another who rises. For every curse that wreaks havoc, there is a sorcerer who stands tall, unwavering in their resolve. The future of Jujutsu sorcery will be defined not just by the battles won, but by the lives touched, the connections made, and the lessons learned along the way. Perhaps the greatest question that lies ahead for Jujutsu sorcery is whether or not the cycle of conflict can ever truly end. Can the balance between life and death ever be fully secured? Can curses ever truly be eradicated, or will they always be a part of the world, born from the emotions and fears that exist in every heart? And if the balance cannot be fully restored, can sorcerers ever find peace within the chaos, or will they always be bound to the path of struggle, fighting for something that can never truly be obtained? These are the questions that will shape the future of Jujutsu sorcery, and the answers will not come easily. But the future is not just about finding the right answers, it is about continuing the journey, step by step, and doing so with the understanding that the path is never straight, and that growth often comes from the challenges that lie ahead. The future of Jujutsu sorcery will not be an easy one, but it will be one that is shaped by the courage of those who walk it, by the strength of their convictions, and by their willingness to face the unknown. As the world of Jujutsu sorcery unfolds, one thing is certain: the journey will continue. The forces of light and darkness will always be at odds, and the battle for the balance between them will never cease. But it is in this struggle, in the quiet moments of reflection, in the triumphs and losses, that the true essence of Jujutsu sorcery will endure. The storm that rages in the world of Jujutsu sorcery is never truly still. It ebbs and flows, a cycle of conflict and resolution that mirrors the deeper currents of the world itself. But when the dust settles and the echoes of battle fade away, there is a stillness that follows, one that is quiet, reflective, and filled with a sense of resolution. This is the peace that comes after the storm, the calm that follows the chaos, where the world breathes in a long, gentle exhale, and those who remain find themselves at the crossroads of the past and the future. In the wake of battle, there is a deep silence, a moment of reflection, of understanding that what has come before cannot be undone, but what lies ahead is still full of possibility. The world of Jujutsu sorcery is one that is defined by its conflicts, its struggles, and its unyielding drive to protect the balance between realms. But after every battle, after every curse is faced, and every sorcerer fights to the limits of their strength, there is a pause, a moment of stillness where the world settles into a temporary peace. This peace, however, is never permanent. The forces of darkness are always lurking, waiting for their next opportunity to rise and disrupt the fragile balance that has been restored. The sorcerers, ever vigilant, know that this calm is fleeting and that it is not a time to rest on their laurels. The weight of the world continues to press on them, even in moments of respite. Yet in this quiet space, there is room to breathe, to acknowledge the victories, the losses, and the personal journeys that have unfolded over time. For those who walk the path of Jujutsu sorcery, this peace offers a chance to reflect. The battles they have fought, the decisions they have made, and the sacrifices they have endured are all part of a larger narrative. In the stillness, they can look back on the paths they have traveled, the choices they have made, and the lives they have touched. In these moments, there is the opportunity to find closure, to heal, and to prepare for whatever may come next. But the peace is not simply about looking back. It is also about looking forward. In the aftermath of the storm, there is the quiet realization that the journey is never truly over. The lessons learned from the past, the strength gained from overcoming obstacles, and the connections forged in the fires of battle are all part of the foundation for the future. The future of Jujutsu sorcery, as uncertain as it may be, is shaped by the peace that follows the storm. It is a moment of renewal where those who have fought can find rest, but also the courage to rise again when the time comes. For the sorcerers who have lived through the storm, this quiet peace is a time to reconnect with themselves. The weight of their responsibilities, their burdens, and their inner struggles are not forgotten, but they are momentarily set aside. In this space of calm, there is a chance to rediscover what they fight for, to reconnect with their own hearts and the ideals that first led them to choose this path. It is a time of personal reflection where each sorcerer can find their own answers, their own understanding of what it means to be a protector, a fighter, and a keeper of balance. In this quiet peace, there is also the chance for healing. The wounds that have been inflicted, both physical and emotional, can begin to mend. For some, this peace offers the opportunity to come to terms with loss, to acknowledge the heroes who have fallen, the sacrifices that have been made, and the lives that have been touched by their actions. It is a time to honor the fallen, to remember those who gave everything for the cause they believed in, and to find the strength to carry on their legacy. But even as the sorcerers heal and reflect, they know that the world will never be the same. The peace after the storm is a fleeting moment, a quiet lull before the next challenge arrives. The curses will rise again, the balance will once more be threatened, and the sorcerers will once again be called upon to fight. But in this brief moment of calm, there is a sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the peace that exists, even if it is only temporary, and for the chance to rest, reflect, and renew. This peace is not without its weight. It is a reminder of the ongoing struggle that defines the world of Jujutsu sorcery, where the battle between light and darkness is never fully resolved. It is a reminder that even in the quiet moments, the forces of the cursed realm are always waiting, always watching. But it is also a reminder that there is strength in the calm, that there is power in the reflection, and that even after the darkest storms, there is always the potential for light. The quiet peace after the storm is a time for renewal, for the world to breathe in deeply before the next battle begins. It is a time to embrace the lessons learned, the connections forged, and the understanding that no matter how dark the world may become, there will always be those who stand against the darkness, who rise up to protect the balance, and who continue to fight for a future that is brighter than the one they left behind. For those who walk the path of Jujutsu sorcery, the peace that follows the storm is not a time of rest, but of preparation. It is a moment to gather strength, to reflect on the journey so far, and to brace for the challenges yet to come. And in this peace, there is an unspoken understanding. The storm may return, but the sorcerers will be ready. Thank you for joining me on this peaceful journey through the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, where the struggles between light and darkness, life and death, continue to unfold. As we near the end of our story, may you take with you the quiet strength of the sorcerers who have walked this path before us, their sacrifices, their ideals, and the hope they carry within them. Now, As the echoes of this journey fade into the night, let yourself rest in the calm that follows, knowing that in every battle there is growth, and in every moment of peace there is renewal. The future may be uncertain, but there is always the promise of new beginnings, of new heroes rising from the shadows. So, as the world of Jujutsu sorcery sleeps, let your own heart find rest. Allow your thoughts to soften, your body to relax, and your mind to drift gently into a space of tranquility. May your dreams be peaceful, and may you awaken with a renewed sense of calm. Good night, dear friend. Thank you for listening. May your sleep be restful, your heart light, and your soul at peace.